Good evening. Welcome, and I'd like to call to order the February 25th, 2019 Old Bridge Township Council meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Please remain standing for a moment of silence and our prayer. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As customary in this chamber, we stand for a moment of silence to remember those who are protecting our freedoms, both here and abroad, for our first responders, for those who have made the ultimate sacrifice, and this evening, the mayor would like to speak as well. Mayor?
Oh, thank you, Council President. I'm sorry. I have two very sad announcements to make. Lindsay Martzat, 38-year township employee with the town, just 61 years of age, also known as Lindsay from engineering, I think everyone knew him as, passed away suddenly last week. And I would just ask all the residents of Old Bridge, anyone that Lindsay had dealings with, professionals, that we keep him and his mother, his wife, and his daughter in our thoughts and our prayers. And also tonight, Council President, you know, I notified you this morning of a very unfortunate incident that happened in town this morning. We lost two people to an automobile accident. I don't know their names. I know very little about them, but I do know that they did die this morning in Old Bridge. And again, I would ask that everyone please keep their friends and family in your prayers. Thank you, Council.
Walker?
Yes, on January 20th, 2019, Dr. Palma Formica passed away. For over 50 years, Dr. Formica cared for the young and old in Old Bridge and surrounding communities. She served as a school physician for Madison Old Bridge High School, and she also for the South Old Bridge Fire Department, and she was a doctor to the clergy of St. Thomas Church in Old Bridge. A moment of silence.
Our prayer, Mr. Piscitti.
Dear Lord, bless thy servants in the ministry of public affairs who serve thee in this chamber. Give them quiet minds and hearts that they may hear thy voice. Help them to know when to speak, when to be silent. Give them strength to oppose the wrong and uphold the right, and grant that they have a good conscience and soul at peace with you and with one another. Amen.
Amen. Please be seated.
This meeting is being held in conformance with the Open Public Meetings Act. Notice has been given to the newspaper, and notice of the meeting has been posted in public places. Next open public meeting of the council will be held on Monday, March 11, 2019, at 7:30 p.m. Mrs. Brown.
Present.
Mr. Cahill.
Here.
Dr. Greenberg. Here. Mr. Merwin.
Yes.
Mr. Murphy.
Here.
Mr. Piscitti. Mr. Rizzoli.
Here.
Mrs. Walker.
Here.
President Sohar.
Here.
Nine present.
Good evening. First, we will have a presentation and overview of Public Works Department.
Council President, we also have, before we go in presentation, I think we have a very good surprise to present.
Okay.
I'm going to have Kyle explain the detail on that.
Okay.
And we're up to explain the details. He's from our Jeff.
Thank you. Madam Chairman,
Good evening.
Council, Mayor. Old Bridge Township is a member of the New Jersey Intergovernmental Insurance Fund, and as a member of the insurance fund, participate very heavily in the safety activities of the JIF. They're represented to the JIF through the Fairview Insurance, and Tom Fitzpatrick will join me in a few minutes. He's representing Fairview Insurance. It is nice to stand here and not be sitting where you've sat. I sat where you've sat, and I'd rather stand here, so I am very grateful to be here. We held this year the first annual Snowplow Rodeo. The purpose of this is for drivers to show their skills as plow operators. One was awarded for non-CDL, that's vehicles under 26,000 pounds, and one was awarded for CDL. The winner of non-CDL was from the town of Verona, and that was presented. The winner for CDL is Michael Martz of Old Bridge Township Public Works. For this honor, council, we have a certificate. We have a certificate that we'll present to Michael that he can frame and put over his fireplace or wherever he would prefer. And this trophy, which will be presented annually to the New Jersey Intergovernmental Insurance Fund member who wins it. And currently, you'll notice it says New Jersey Intergovernmental Insurance Fund Annual Snowplow Rodeo CDL. And on the side, it says 2018 Michael Martz Old Bridge. And this will, thank you. And this will reside in the Old Bridge Public Works building unless or until somebody takes it from them at the end of 2019. Michael, congratulations. Well done. We're very grateful. Thank you. Council, you are obviously aware that the Old Bridge Township maintains a safety committee, which means on a monthly basis. It's actually the only member of the JIF that does a monthly basis. And we do congratulate Old Bridge Township on their continuing efforts to control losses and reduce expense. Thank you.
I'll take a picture. 1 second.
Now I'm going to present an overview of the Public Works Department.
And for the people at home, Kyle, can you just introduce yourself,
Absolutely.
please?
Yes, my name is Kyle Harris. I'm the Director of Public Works here for Old Bridge Township.
Thank you.
So Public Works it varies a lot from town to town. So I wanted to really let the public know what we do here in Old Bridge. We're divided into 4 divisions. We have a building maintenance division, a vehicle maintenance division, a road division, and a recycling division. The department consists of 26 full-time employees. There's myself, the director. We have 3 foremen, 12 full-time road employees, 3 seasonal road employees, 6 vehicle mechanics, 2 building maintenance mechanics, and 2 administrative staff, one of which serves as the Clean Communities Coordinator and the Recycling Coordinator. Our building maintenance division maintains all the buildings' interior and exterior infrastructure. There's 12 buildings in this complex area. That includes the police garage and traffic and safety offices just down the street on 516. We also have 3 satellite buildings throughout the township. That's 2 cell towers that that are for the police department that we maintain, as well as assisting with the Lawrence Harbor Library. We also have the commuter parking lots and the main parking lot here that we maintain, the street lights there, as well as the exterior hardscapes of the complex. Within the complex, we have HVAC systems we maintain, elevators, oversee the custodial contract. We do office reconfigurations, electrical plumbing work, flooring, painting, pretty much anything that takes place in the building, the Public Works Department oversees that. In 2018, we received 553 service requests. These go from anything from a office reconfiguration to major projects. We did a TV studio reconfiguration in-house, as well as a replaced the ceiling in the senior center in-house as well. We also implemented in 2018 two big preventative maintenance programs. One was for the HVAC system, as well as all the garage doors within the complex. Our vehicle maintenance division oversees the maintenance of all vehicles and equipment in town. We have 157 vehicles and 55 pieces of large equipment. These are our police cars, our trucks, our dump trucks, garbage trucks, lawn mowers, police motorcycles, trailers. It's anything that you see out on the road that belongs to the township, we're maintaining those. And our services are endless. We do windshield wiper replacements, tire replacements, oil changes. We oversaw transmission replacements, motor replacements. It's pretty much anything that takes place with the vehicles we're overseeing or doing in-house. In 2018, we had 1,525 service requests. And this was also the first year that we were one vehicle maintenance for the entire township. So that meant previously we had 3 different vehicle divisions. Parks and Rec had their own. The police department had theirs, and Public Works had a third. So we consolidated these departments, and now we have a lot more working together, and a greater variety of skills that are all in one shop now, and we're able to do more work in-house, which has been very beneficial. We do police vehicle conversions. When the police department purchases a new vehicle, we remove all the infrastructure that's in that vehicle, the computer systems, the lights, and we repurpose that for the next round of vehicles. In 2018, we did prepared the 5-ton, which is a military surplus vehicle for high water rescue. We put a snorkel kit on that, so that can go into water up to 7.5 feet deep. We put a lighting package on that, did a bunch of exterior upgrades to that, and that was all done in-house as well. In 2018, we started the first year of online vehicle maintenance records. So every piece of work that's done on a vehicle now is recorded, and we have an extended record of all that work. And we also did a complete vehicle analysis of all the vehicles in the township. We had a handful of vehicles that were simply not being used, that they were used for one event, one day of the year, getting 15 miles a year put on them. So we've figured a way to consolidate the number of vehicles we have by sharing vehicles among departments so that we have fewer vehicles in the township. In a road division, this is what the public really sees. This is a road division and a recycling division that I'm going to get into next. The road division is responsible for 378 lane miles of roadway. We also have 5,500 catch basins throughout the town, 290 outfalls, 22 retention ponds. We have 20 roadside drainage ditches, 44 different township properties that we maintain and mow, and 63 roads that require roadside mowing, excuse me. Yeah. So our day-to-day operations in the road division are pothole repairs, milling and paving, catch basin repairs, drainage pipe repairs, street sweeping, catch basin cleaning, right-of-way grass mowing, tree trimming and removal, public property mowing. In 2018, we started a crack sealing program. We also do litter and illegal dumping cleanups and replacement of street signs. So in 2018, we received 1,342 requests from the public for different services. Just some of them were 386 pothole repairs, but we didn't just fix 386 potholes. We go out, this time of year, we're out 5 days a week throughout the town filling in potholes. These are just the 386 specific potholes that the public reported to us. And potholes are often, there's not just one. You go to a street and there is 30 or 40 of them on that road. So you're there for a good portion of the day fixing those. We had over 100 trees come down this past year, most of them in the roadways. So that, just today alone, we had 5 come down in a 45-minute period. So it's been a tough year for trees. We've responded to 89 different drainage issues, 115 reported catch basins that were filled. We had 195 sinkhole and catch basin repairs. This is just part of the aging infrastructure that the township has. A lot of our catch basins are original. Developments that were built in the 50s, they're starting to show their age now with catch basins starting to crumble. And all it takes is one concrete block to fail in that catch basin, and now you have a sinkhole in the roadway. We also do in-house milling and paving. We had 31 locations that we did this in last year. This is or 31 reported locations. This is like maybe you'll have a section of road that's 20 feet long that's filled with potholes. We'll go in there and remove the top layer of asphalt and come in and put a new top coat on so it's a smoother drive right there. Our scheduled maintenance consists of street sweeping. We did 5 weeks of sweeping in each ward. We checked and inspected all 5,500 catch basins. We did 19 roads. We're done with the crack sealing this past year. This is when we went out, identified roads that had been paved the last 4, 5, 6 years. They start to experience some cracks in the roadway. You fill these cracks in, that keeps the water from entering during the winter months and helps prevent potholes. So it's a long-term program that will increase the longevity of our roads. We do drainage and flow channel cleaning year-round. 2018 was a very wet year, so we had a lot of drainage issues that you just got to constantly be removing brush and branches and leaves from the drainage system. And then we do roadside mowing and township mowing from April through November. In the winter, we maintain snow removal from all the township roads and the commuter parking lots. We have, in-house, we have 20 plow trucks available, 15 salt spreaders, and 5 different pieces of heavy equipment for snow removal. In the recycling center, our recycling center is supported through our recycling tonnage grant. And these are the services that we offer to the center, in the center, Monday through Saturday, 7:30 to 3:30 for the residents of Old Bridge. They can recycle newspaper, shiny paper, cardboard, glass bottles, plastic bottles, cans, carpet, block and concrete, mattresses, motor oil, cooking oil, electronics, metal, and styrofoam. We also have 3 special recycling events throughout the year that are supported by the county. We have paint collection the 2nd Saturday of every month from 7 to 12. We have a paper shred event in March of each year and a household hazardous waste event as well. In 2018, we had 30,000 visitors to the recycling center. We collected 231,000 pounds of metal, 75,000 pounds of electronics, 5,200 gallons of motor oil, 1,500 plus mattresses, and 240 gallons of cooking oil. We also had the 2 paper shreds. One was put on by the county, as I mentioned, and then we also had a second one in the fall. We had 847 residents show up for those 2 events. We had the household hazardous waste event that had 743 residents come through, and our paint collection had 992 residents throughout the year. In 2019, we have the paint collection will continue the 2nd Saturday every month. The paper shred event will be on March 23rd from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. And our household hazardous waste collection day will be October 27th from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. We also do recycling pickup services. These are our white goods and appliances. You can call and schedule an appointment with the Public Works Department. We pick up every other Monday throughout the year. And this is good for washers, dryers, stoves, ovens, refrigerators, freezers, treadmills, hot water heaters, microwave, toaster oven. If the item's not listed, give us a call. There's a lot of items out there that once we talk to the resident, we find out, yeah, this is mostly a metal item. We can pick this up and dispose of it. We also do leaf collection in the spring and fall, brush collection in the spring, summer, and fall, and Christmas tree collection in January. And in 2018, we did 660 white goods and appliance stops. We did 507 requested brush stops, plus a township-wide brush collection in March and a township-wide Christmas tree collection for a total of 400,000 pounds of brush. And we did 4 leaf collections for almost 850,000 pounds of brush, or leaves. Our Clean Communities program consists of the labor assistance program through the county and the Mayor's Clean Team. In 2018, we did 141 roads. We picked up 2,950 bags of garbage, 820 bags of recycling, 70 tires, and 378 bulk items. This is programs run through the Clean Communities Grant Program, which is another state-funded grant. And it's just a brief overview of the department, and open up to any questions.
Mr. Sohar? Yes, so thank you, Kyle. That was tremendous. What struck me about the presentation was all the things that your department did throughout the year, the volume of the work, and it really didn't matter which piece of your department. They were all just as busy, right? This is probably, besides the police and also our paving, curb, drainage program, this is probably the most visible to our township residents. And every time I interact with friends and family who live in town, they have nothing but great things to say about your department, whether it's plowing the roads or the recycling, which I think is done. It's just, we've come leaps and bounds with the recycling program. It's just a great program, and you wouldn't be able to handle all that volume without a lot of coordination and leadership. So it doesn't happen by accident. As somebody who's run large organizations, I know there's a lot that goes into it. So I just want to commend you. I see Casey in the audience as well. Commend Casey as well for his leadership, and I think you guys are doing a terrific job.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Yes.
I too want to thank you very much for your hard work and efforts. Every time I call you or someone in your department, the response time is excellent, and the actual response is excellent. So I have nothing better to say that, a big difference to what this town used to be many years ago. And kudos to you and your team. Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
just have one little question. With lumber and wood, you don't accept that in the recycling? This just can't be recycled, or what is the deal with that?
Yeah, there's really no recycling market for like treated wood, such as painted wood or, pressure treated wood. That's all just bulk garbage.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Kyle, thank you. Great presentation. Great job out there. I can only echo, when I call, you guys are there. I just wish sometimes they were a little bit more proactive. If they see something, they pick it up. We don't have to call, but you're working on that, I know. The potholes. I mean, we have air equipment. I don't know why we're not blowing these holes out, a lot of them. We have tack. I don't know why we're not putting tack down. And maybe these potholes would stay a little longer if we just put that little bit of extra effort. But that's your expertise,
We actually addressed that this morning and made a change to our policy for filling in potholes. We are blowing them out now. We've added a backpack blower to the unit, and we're working on getting the tack machine that's part of the unit working.
Great. That was all I have. Thank you.
Dr. Greenberg?
Yes, I just want to say that it was an excellent presentation, especially for the public who doesn't realize everything that the road department does. And I hope that people are using the recycle facility more. I can tell you with your staff, anytime that I've dealt with them, everyone has always been responsive. They've been pleasant and professional. And I commend them because when I'm out at the yard, I'm amazed at the things that they do. And sometimes I always think they do it all here, their poor wives when they go home, or poor them after they've been doing it all day to go home and then get a honey-do list. But I do want to say, in a town this size, that any time that I've needed something, then reached out, the department has gone, above the call, and I just appreciate it so much. And I know that, many times you've done things, even when things, aren't in the realm, you find a way to do it, and I'm sure the residents appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, I just want to thank you also. Every time I call, you're there as soon as I hang the phone up, and you're there, especially like on that stretch of Lamberts, and they're always dumping, and you're always there. And I just want to say great job.
Thank you.
And I'll close the comments also by once again saying the same thing. I think that we gave the rights it's green, it's green.
Trying to tell you something, Mayor.
Sorry about that. I apologize. I just want to also say thank you. And I think it's a very professional way that the department is looking at doing things. For instance, that vehicle maintenance history. All of those things, those, seem to be, they're going to take some time, but in the end, in the long run, it's going to be a very good win for us. So I think taking the time to plan all of that out is also very important. And again, the same thing, all the staff is courteous, they're efficient. Anytime I call, same thing, they are there, and I get phone back from my residents telling me just how phenomenal you guys are and how hard you work and all the inclement weather and everything else. So again, this was a very good presentation, and I think people at home should know exactly the scope of what you do. And recycling, unbelievable. I go a lot, and when I go, it's always crowded. So it's a really good job. Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you.
Council President, I have to chip in here and just thank the entire department. Kyle's staff does an excellent job. As Mr. Cahill said, we've come a long way. When I inherited this department, the trucks had holes in the floors. It just was a nightmare. But Spencer Carpenter started the recovery. Kyle took over. The department did not miss a beat. And I think with good management comes efficiencies. With efficiencies comes cost savings, allowing us to do more for a lot of times for less money. And the residents benefit from good management in place. So I want to thank Kyle personally and publicly. He's doing a great job.
Thank you, Mayor.
I just want to add, you've invested a lot in the department as far as equipment that made it. I'm sure the prior individuals there and director would have liked that if they had the initiative and put the money into the department also, and for some reason there was a void with doing that. 100%. And so buying the proper equipment, giving them the proper tools to do what they need, their job, it made it more efficient for the amount of workers that are in that department. And that, I think, is what was the key element of changing things. And I do feel bad when you look back on the prior employees and the director that didn't have the resources that he really needed to do the things that he wanted to.
You hire good people, you support them, you give them the tools they need to succeed, and then you hold them accountable. That's Management 101. And we've invested in that department millions of dollars. I believe, Kyle, the entire fleet has been replaced since over the last 7 years. I don't think there's a piece of equipment that was around back then, maybe one or two, but 90% of the equipment is fairly new.
Yeah, definitely have to invest, absolutely.
So then I would just add one other thing. So kudos to the prior people that worked with not the best equipment
we don't know how it got done.
Because I will say also whenever, as a resident reached out to them, they got the job done. But I just know by looking at the fleet and the materials that you have, the equipment you have, that, it's a better operation because of the resources that you have, because I know there's a lot of employees that are still here, and they're very good employees, but they just weren't given the things they needed. So they actually had to work harder and figure out different ways to do it. So to everyone, good job. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council.
Okay. Okay, next will be approval of minutes of previous meetings.
I'll move them.
Combined meeting, January 29th, 2019.
Second.
Okay, moved by Dr. Greenberg, second by Mr. Murphy.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Cahill?
Yes.
And Dr. Greenberg?
Yes.
Mr. Merwin? Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Piscitty?
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
President Sohar?
Yes.
9 yes.
Bill listing, Mrs. Walker.
Yes, accounts payable, February 25th, 2019, $9,149,464.11.
Do I have a motion?
Move it.
Moved by Dr. Greenberg, second by Mr. Rizzoli.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Cahill?
Yes.
And Dr. Greenberg?
Yes.
Mr. Merwin? Yes. Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Piscitty?
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
President Sohar?
Yes.
9 yes.
Payroll, February 15th, 2019, $977,008.71.
Do I have a motion?
Move it.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Greenberg Belli, second by Mr. Pescitti.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Cahill?
Yes.
And Dr. Greenberg?
Yes.
Mr. Merwin? Yes. Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Piscitty?
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
President Sohar?
Yes.
9 yes.
Payroll overtime, February 15th, 2019, $30,989.62.
Do I have a motion?
Move it.
Second.
Second, moved by Mrs. Walker, second by Mr. Rizzoli. Can we have a breakout, Mr. Shaw?
Thank you, Council President. As Councilwoman Walker indicated, that the total overtime was $30,989.62. There was an uptick in Public Works. There were call-ins for buildings and grounds on January 26 and January 27, and then we had a snow removal and ice treatment on January 26 and February 2nd. In the police department, the total sworn police officers overtime was $22,826.32. When you deduct for grants, $388.90, and deduct for ETO, the net of $6,653.51, the net overtime was $15,783.91, representing 368.25 men and women hours. We had 2 officers injured on duty that period.
Thank you, Mr. Shaw.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Cahill?
Yes.
And Dr. Greenberg?
Yes.
Mr. Merwin?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Piscitty? Mr. Rizzoli?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
President Sohar?
Yes.
9 yes.
That concludes the bill list.
Thank you, Mrs. Walker. Public hearings and ordinances for second reading. H1, Release Reduction Performance Guarantee, Amboy Bank / Sayre Associates, Block 3230, Lot 2.11, application number 07-15P, Cheesequake Bank Branch. I'm just having a good time.
Good evening, members of the council. My name is Todd Green. I'm an attorney with Giordano, Halloran, and Ciesla. I represent the applicant, Amboy Bank. We're here before you for bond release for a property located at 3230, lot 211, It's Amboy's branch, which I'm sure that you've all passed on a daily basis, located on Lock Harbor Road and Madawan Road. It's by the Town Square Center and the interchange for exit 120 on the Garden State Parkway. This was a two-story branch, not much, there's no public improvements. All of the work has been completed. It's my understanding from talking with the Township's professionals that all the work has been satisfactorily completed, and they were recommending bond release, predicated on the sole condition that Amboy agrees to pay any outstanding escrow fees, which it's my understanding that there are none.
Okay.
Council President, the township engineer is under, she's not feeling well, so she couldn't be here, but she has a detailed memo included in the, it's with the agenda, and recommending, release the performance guarantee subject to payment of all outstanding escrow fee, if any. So, she has recommendation for release.
Thank you. Okay, then I will open it up first to the public. Is there anyone here in the public that would like to be heard? Seeing no hands, I will close the public portion. And now, council, anyone questions? Okay, do I have a motion? Okay.
Second it.
Motion by Mr. Rizzoli, second by Dr. Greenberg Belli.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Cahill?
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg?
Yes.
Mr. Merwin?
For the attorney, I bank with Amboy. Do I have to recuse myself or no?
No.
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Pescitti?
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
President Soha?
Yes.
9 yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Have a nice evening.
Thank you very much for your time.
Ordinance for second reading, 2019-03, ordinance to establish the municipal budget appropriation limits and cap bank, NJSA 40A, semicolon 4-45, for the calendar year 2019.
Move it.
I have to open it up to the public. Is there anyone in the public that would like to be heard? Seeing no hands, we'll close the public. And the motion was made by Mr. Rizzoli?
Tony.
Okay, Mr. Merwin?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I have an ear infection.
That's all right.
Mrs. Belli?
And and Dr. Greenberg Belli. I can't hear you. It's okay.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Cahill?
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg?
Yes.
Mr. Merwin?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy? Mr. Murphy?
I'm going to abstain.
Mr. Pescitti?
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
President Soha?
Yes.
8 yes, 1 abstention.
Preliminary public comments to council, subject to the following conditions and restrictions. During the preliminary public portion of the meeting, any person may address the Township Council on any subject matters for a maximum period of 5 minutes. Any such person desiring to speak during the preliminary public portion shall first sign a list maintained by the Township Clerk for such purpose. Comments during the preliminary public comment portion of the meeting shall not encompass second reading ordinances or any other matter for which comment or a public hearing is to occur at the meeting.
Mr. Vasilios Marantidis?
Yeah. Good evening, have a seat.
We can't hear you.
Have a seat, and then make sure your microphone is on, please.
Just press the green button. No, right on the bottom.
I know so many things, but with a computer, don't ask me. I heard when you start here, everybody, we said thanks to the people where they sacrificed for us. It's truly how many people they sacrifice, and we have better days today, and where were the life. But it reminds me on the 14th of this month. Don't feel any about me if you see me cry. On the 14th, I get a arrest from the 5 police, I don't know. And I believe it's not from the old bridge. It is from the birthday boy. They came, 6 guys, they arrest me. They put me in the bed, they bring the bed, tie me, legs and foot. They get me to the hospital, like a criminal. I beg them, no matter how many times. They say from the beginning, do you have any gun? I said, I don't have any. But from what reason? They said, you're going to kill the people. I beg your pardon? You're going to kill the people. I'm going to kill the people, get my hand blood for somebody else, and lock myself in the jail. For what? Do they have more value than myself? You won't believe it. They grabbed me from the hand. They pushed me the thing. They forced me on the bed, and they tied me to the hospital where I was. 4 hours I was tied. I begged them. Begging my sister, which right now, 2 days ago on the 24th, she closed a year since she passed away. I asked, her name is Arati. Tell me, Arati, this is a dream, it's not the truth. I can breathe, I can forget about it. Even Jesus Christ, they did not crucify him the same thing. And I hope it's not from the old bridge police. I want the 5 guys, from what town it is, and I'm not going to stay, ladies and gentlemen, here. I'm going to the Washington, D.C. Whatever they did, it's the wrong way. When with the expression you raise your voice, they grab you, the police, like you are a murderer. Shame to everybody. Shame to the thing which and they learn how to be policemen, to the academy. I know the law. My forefathers, they built the law. That courtrooms, and they use it. My forefathers, they built that courtroom. I know the law. I never was against the law. If I'm a mistake to anybody, I can say, apologize, I'm sorry. But I never going to stop when I'm all right, somebody to step over my body. The place where I live, I can say one big witness, they are murderers. They kill the people, how many, since they built the buildings on 1947. They build on the trash or the garbage. People, they suffer, they don't know how they die. Nobody knows about that. They give the government because they get some money from the German, as I told you, that how they bring the people from there, they bury them here in New Amsterdam Village, instead to give them a better place to live. By accident, Thursday, it was the Optimo, the guys to service, my telephone was off. When he walks inside, he holds his nose. I says, what happens? He says, stinks here. I says, can you fix my telephone number, please? Because I'm 2 days, I cannot communicate with nobody. When he finished, I says, can you see the radiator, what is it, the air condition? He said, it's a mole. And I know because I'm going so many buildings, they have the same thing in New Amsterdam Village. They have leaking in the apartment. Since I reported, now they check the leaking. For how long ago they leak in those apartments? People, they suffer. Please, to everybody, I beg you, they have to clean the basement. The way where they make the construction, they are wrong. I born on the construction when I was 15 years old. I have a trophy from the mayor when I built the earthquake building on Zakynthos, on the Greek island. I beg you, please, come and see the place where I live. Give me the opportunity to fix my apartment because they don't let me. Okay. They're liars.
All right. Well, thank you for coming and sharing.
I have the guy witness us. I brought him here to see my apartment. What they say, I'm not allowed, as you can see, I'm not allowed to bother the people.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Good evening.
Good evening, Council. I live upstairs from Belle. I'm his upstairs neighbor.
Can you state your name for the record?
My name is Angelo Fagan. I live in the upstairs apartment, and I've known Bill for almost, it's been 2 years now. I think I'm going into my 3rd year at this place. And he's really a very nice man. He's been so helpful. He's helped me fix my screen door when it wasn't closing properly. He's a man who does know things. And he's showed me equations that he's wrote and poems that he's wrote. But he has a bit of a problem with communication because of the language. He knows Greek and English isn't his first language, so he struggles to find the words. And he probably maybe knows extreme words when trying to express himself. But in the 2 years that I've known him, I've been down in his place several times, and I've never had a problem. But recently I've been down there, and it is suffocating to be down there. Like, it really does have a smell, and there is an area where it's almost concentrated, and you can smell it by like the sill and where the heat comes up. But as you stand in the apartment, you'll smell it anywhere. You almost get like a headache just staying there. I haven't seen mold, but I can smell that smell, and I know it's somewhere in that area. Fortunately, I haven't had the smell in my upstairs apartment, but I have smelt it in his, and it has been only just recently. And they've had the people come in to look at his apartment, and he's so beautiful. He grows so many flowers and plants. He had like a lemon tree and different cactuses and everything, and all this by the one bay window that gets probably the best light. And we try to grow stuff upstairs, but we do all right. Some things survive and some things don't, but we try our best. But he does really good. This is a man, who knows things, and he knows he understands, but I just feel like he has a hard time expressing himself. And they've tried to say that it's the plants that are causing the smell or giving off the mold, but he's moved it away from the windowsill, and he's tried to prove to them that you can still smell it there. The smell is still there. And he's had these plants for years, and he's had them while I've known him, and I've never had the smell, before. So I just want somebody to help him, because he took care of his sister for years, and he's not as young as I am. He doesn't have the life force that I have, and he still does anyway. He's out there shoveling anytime it snows. He's always clearing the walkway. Like, I can't even imagine trying to do all the things that he does, and he does it anyway. And I wish I could help him more, but I don't have all the time or knowledge to fix the problems that he's dealing with. But I do see him, and I understand him as a person. I have 2 roommates that live with me, and out of the 3 of us, I probably am able to understand him best. Not everyone can always pick up on the things he's trying to express himself in, because he uses just the broken English. But it's hard, but if you just take the time to listen, you can get the point that he's getting at. So I'm just here in support of him and letting you know that this is a recent issue that he's dealing with, and he's tried to take the proper means to get it dealt with, but it doesn't seem like they want to help, or maybe they don't really notice the problem.
So the management company's been there?
As he's explained it to me, that they have come in, and they said, like, I think he gave you the letter. It shows, that they suggested that it possibly was the plants, and that they've checked the basement, and that they state that it was clean. It's his understanding. I mean, I haven't been in the basement, so I don't know, that the basement possibly has a lot of dust in it, and that the dust is holding onto the water, and that the water is causing that mildew, mold smell to rise up into the apartment. And I know, like, the property itself that the apartments sit on, we're next to like a very big, the Cheesequake Park is right behind us, but like just beyond our apartment is like is a pretty big ditch, and I know the land gets like really soggy. It doesn't really drain very well. Yeah, and you can see like some of the trees, the roots are holding onto the dirt, and there's a clump of dirt where the roots are holding onto, and then all the rest of the dirt is lower around it. And you'll see puddles of water that just sit on the grass and they freeze. Like when I walk my dog, I go and I step and you hear the crunching of water underneath, because it's just sitting on top. So there's definitely got to be a drainage problem. And I imagine if it's sitting in the dirt, that it very well could be sitting in the dust in the basement. And all he's really asked is for someone to go down there and clean it. And they said that they have, and they have cleaned it, but I still am smelling that smell in his apartment. I was just in there before we came, and you can still smell it by like the heat where it comes up and everything.
Yes.
Okay. Hi. I've actually talked to Bill the Greek a few times over the past few weeks. Hi. I do know that, don't worry about that. I do know that code enforcement did come out there, so I know what you're talking about. They came out and they checked. I think they did more of a visual check and said they don't see mold.
Right, which I agree. I haven't seen any mold myself,
see it, but you can smell it. So he did ask for us to come there. He asked for me to come. So I will make a point to come. I'm going to hope this week, but I do want to maybe come with code enforcement and see. I know he had someone from the county come, I believe. So did you leave your phone number here with the clerk?
No, but I can leave it for you guys.
So if you do that, then that would be helpful, and I'll come. And I really appreciate you speaking on his behalf, because you're right. I think sometimes the language barrier can be a little bit challenging, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming and speaking on his behalf as well. It's sometimes it's difficult, you know, when you feel you're not getting yourself expressed the way you'd like to. So thank you very much for the time.
Thank you guys for listening.
Anyone else?
No. No.
Okay. Okay. Council comments. Anyone on my left for a council comment? Mr. Rizzoli.
Thank you, Council President. This is for council. I'd like to address the situation on Route 9 with these continuous MVAs. Calling for us to pass a resolution this evening requesting that the state DOT conduct a traffic study along our Route 9 corridor. Any attempt that we can to minimize these accidents, be it at barriers, reflective devices, signage or lighting, I think it's time it needs to be addressed. I think this is a proactive approach to trying to address it, and I hope I'll get the support of the council this evening and get a second on my motion.
I'll second.
Okay. Anyone discussion? Anyone comment?
What is the motion?
That's what I wanted.
I'd like to pass a resolution that we sent to the state DOT to conduct a traffic study of Route 9, our Route 9 corridor, study all the MVAs that have been taking place and have them addressed in any way.
I think we are all would be in favor of that. I think they reach out to the State Department on a regular basis, Department of Transportation, even as far as on Spring Valley Road, that we've reached out to them for years ago about the traffic signal on on Route 9 and Spring Valley Road, just to have a turn signal. The state moves very slowly. We've reached out on 34 for traffic lights, and I agree with you. The state does have a problem being responsive to the calls, but as far as I know, the administration has reached out multiple times and on a regular basis to the state, but, you know, putting it in writing from the council, of, you know, I have no problem with that, and I think we'd all be in favor. We're all in favor of safety, and, you know, it's a tragic thing when you hear of an accident and life's lost, you know, and it's sad, and a lot of people are just in a hurry and not paying attention now, and it's terrible. But, you know, our heart breaks when anyone is in an accident and there's loss of life. So I agree, reach out to the state, and if anyone knows the State Department of Transportation, you could just see all around the town, the state roads, the problems that we do have, and, you know, the response that we get. Thank you.
Council, I'd just like to add some history. Route 9 is the busiest commuter corridor in the state of New Jersey, and we've had a number of incidences. The first one I remember that we asked for help from the state was in the bus lane when it hit a school bus. And we asked for a complete review of the bus lane operations here in Old Bridge, and their response came back, their report came back and said they were perfectly safe.
Yeah, I remember.
I think everybody got that report. We had a triple fatal a number of years, 2 years ago, in front of Lombardi Field on Route 9, where a car crossed over the median. We immediately reached out to the Department of Transportation and asked for a study to warrant a guardrail to stop future crossovers. And again, we were met with, they don't need it. Just today, we had a fatal. I don't think it was related to anything Route 9 other than, and I won't comment on the detail of the accident. But if you look at C3 on your agenda tonight, I've been in contact with our legislators. I did get in touch with the governor's office today, so I will have more to say about that as moving forward with getting the DOT, an audience with the DOT, and addressing some of these issues as opposed to putting all their efforts into constructing a salt storage facility in one of the dangerous locations you could ever put one, where they've put the signalization improvement for Spring Valley Road, where the accident occurred today, on the back burner. We've given them the money. They've refused to put the guardrail, which we're committed. We proved to them you need it. Traffic counts warrant a guardrail, a protective guardrail, and it's only for the grace of God this morning that that accident did not happen 1,000 feet further north. One of those vehicles would have gone into oncoming traffic. So it's about time that the DOT, and we are committed. I talked to our legislators, and action as early as tomorrow is going to take place.
Madam Chairman, we have a motion and a second on that.
Yeah, that's fine. I do feel, though, Mr. Merwin, that I should allow any of the council people who wish to comment, as well as the mayor. This is a conversation, and I think that we have, I want to recognize people, get their thoughts before we vote. Thank you. Anyone else? Mrs. Walker.
Yeah, I have no problem moving this forward, but it's very frustrating dealing with the state. Time and time again, we bring problems to them, and they seem like they don't care. As you know, Spring Valley and Route 9, it's been years we've been asking for that turn signal there. And then the problem with Amboy and 34, it's causing a lot of accidents further down on Lamberts and Amboy and Disbrow. And the state doesn't seem to care. And it's very frustrating. I have no problem doing this, but I think it's going to be for nothing.
Anyone else? Okay, I'll close the comments as well by saying that we do wait an inordinate amount of time for things. That Spring Valley Road, I can't even tell you how many years we've been waiting for that light, and it's a disgrace. We've put up our money, our intent is there, and we wait. So I agree. I mean, I support this. I think it's fine to do it, but it's a very frustrating process with the state.
Okay. Mrs. Brown?
I guess I'll abstain for the moment. I'm still trying to figure out exactly what we're doing with this.
Okay.
Okay. Abstain.
Abstain? Okay.
Do you want to explain to her what
You
we're
want
doing on this?
us to explain it?
Yeah, I think,
Okay.
yeah, I wanted Mr. Rizzoli to explain it more, yeah.
Yeah, this is a resolution calling for the state DOT to conduct a study of the Route 9 corridor and see how these accidents can be minimized or how they can be addressed, be it through barriers, reflective devices, signage, lighting, anything that it can do. I think it's time we take a proactive approach, let the state put in writing that they refuse to do it, and then we'll take further action on it. I think we cannot have no inaction. I understand the frustration, but we can't give up. We got to keep trying and giving them a hard time. It's time to be proactive. Time to start spending tax dollars on Old Bridge.
I think we have been proactive. Mayor, don't we have it in writing, their denials? We have been proactive, especially with Amboy and 34. Numerous letters were written to the state. DOT was contacted numerous times. We have been proactive.
Yeah, there's quite a history
Excuse me, no one's questioned anybody whether or not they're proactive. I said we need to be proactive at this point. I would never question anybody's attitude towards this, whether or not you want to be proactive or not. There's no need to be negative. Let's just move forward and call the vote. I don't know why we keep talking about this. There was a motion and a second. Let's vote.
Is everyone satisfied? Okay, then.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Cahill?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Dr. Greenberg?
Yes.
Mr. Merwin?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Peschitti?
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
President Sohar?
Yes.
9 yes.
No.
Anyone else on this side for council member comments?
Yes.
Mr. Merwin.
3 months ago, early December, I advised Jersey Central of over 50 streetlights out of service. In January, I advised Jersey Central of over 40 streetlights being out of service, most of which were from the previous month. This month, I advised them of 30 streetlights being out of service, of which most of them are from the month of December. All right? The Jersey Central has taken a stance, and I don't care where you drive in the state of New Jersey, you will see streetlights out. It's a financial decision on their part. It's time we took a financial decision. We need to identify every streetlight that's out in the Township of Old Bridge. And I'm sure it's between 200 and 300, if not more. And notify them. And if they're not fixed within the month, the next month we take it off of the bill that we pay Jersey Central. This is ridiculous. We got a highway, we got 13 streetlights out of service on crosswalks, the traveling public. We have a streetlight out here that I reported in December. There was 2 streetlights out. I report them both. They fix one, they don't fix the other. This is ridiculous, and we allow it to continue. Please, we need to make a strong stance with Jersey Central. I don't care what they do in Sayreville. I don't care what they do in Aberdeen. But in Old Bridge, you're going to fix our damn lights. That's it.
Okay.
All right? Now, on Beyond the Street, down in the Genoa section, we spent a lot of money last year in reference to drainage. The repairs that were done last year are terrible. The water pools, the flows over the roadway, it ices up. All right? We have storm drains that we put on private property where the water doesn't even run into it. I don't know who engineered or who designed it, but it's terrible. We need to have that straightened out. There's like 9 new houses along that street. Why were they not made to either tie into the storm drain system, or why were they not made to have something in their yard so that the water does not get pumped out into the streets? These are new homes. This is ridiculous. Well, it's Ward 1, I guess. That's what it was.
Councilman, we are at a disadvantage because the township engineer is not here today, but we'll address your concern at the next meeting.
Very good. The senior building. I see tonight we are hopefully approving the demolition of the senior building in Lawrence Harbor. Once it's down, what is next? Is that a redevelopment area? Is it something that goes to planning or zoning? What is the?
It is designated as in a redevelopment, and redevelopment agency is looking into that. In fact, we believe that there may be redevelopers designated at the next redevelopment meeting with the presentation, and if there's the board satisfies, then we'll be designating a redevelopers for the construction of 12 affordable unit that is approved under our COA obligation.
Well, that is what I'm bringing up. You're talking 12 units.
Yeah.
Are you talking 3 buildings with 4? You're talking 12 individual units?
We believe it's 12 individual units, 12 homes, individual homes.
So that has to come back before the council before that's approved?
Yes, part of the, once the plan is approved and the developers can, can provide sufficient evidence that he can execute that, obviously the land transfer will have to take place, which is the council's authority, and then will be presented to the council.
Very good, thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Merwin. Anyone else on my left? Mr. Murphy?
Yeah, I wasn't going to, I'm sorry, yes, Chairwoman, thanks. I wasn't going to speak tonight. In fact, I really wasn't going to speak anymore at meetings, and I've told people that I was just going to try to take it easy. And I think I owe it to a lot of people to speak tonight. I can speak about anything, right?
It's council comments. Hopefully it's, part of what's going on.
About 6 weeks ago, my girlfriend, if you don't know her, she's usually the one sitting in the back with her hands in her head, just waiting for me to say something wrong, and then she leaves. But anyway, she had a heart attack. Well, I took her to Old Bridge Hospital, and she had a heart attack. The only way in the room were her and I was in there because the nurse had to go down and get medication, and she passed out in my arms. I called for doctors and everything. The doctor had come in, threw her on a bed like it was nothing, and resuscitated her. He's calling for cardiologists. There were none, so he had to do all this himself. He brought her back that time, and after about 10 minutes, he lost her again. Then he had to hit with the defibrillator. Then they got somebody to transport her because they didn't have a cardiologist at Old Bridge, so they tried to get her over to Perth Amboy to see if they could do any more. But then he lost her again. So he gets her back, and now he gets her, they're sending her over to Perth Amboy. They weren't sure she could make the ride. He said, listen, I kept her brain oxygen up to 96%. That's the only good thing I can tell you. Just let them know that. When I got to Perth Amboy, after 3 hours of trying to do something, she had a partially blocked artery, and the doctor, when he came out, said she needed a special machine that they didn't have, but he couldn't get her oxygen up to over 65%. So what they did is, it took 10 hours to get a room. Nobody in the state had a room. We were ready to go to New York, but Robert Wood called like at midnight and said they had a room, and we took her up there. She came to the next day. It was like, before we left there, they told us she was brain damaged. They didn't know to what extent. At that point, I never thought I would do that. I said, I'm going to take care of her the rest of my life no matter what. My whole life changed at that point. At Robert Wood, they did a great job bringing her back, but every day they said it's bad. Her liver, her kidneys, her heart, and her lungs were all under 30%. He said the next day everything came up but the liver, and she's still in a lot of trouble. That day she wanted a piece of paper so she could write. He goes, she can't write. She wrote, where am I? I thought I was Old Bridge. How'd I get here? So to keep a short story, she had to go on this machine that they say you usually don't come off of. They said she'd be in intensive care for about a month and a half. She was in there for like 6 days. She got off the machine a lot quicker. When we left there, I guess 3 weeks, the doctor had come up to us and he said, listen, she should not be alive. She had less than 65% brain oxygen for 10 hours. He says, this is prayers. We cannot do this. And at that point, I decided I'm not going to argue. You're going to see a different person here now. I'm not going to stop doing what I have to for the town and everything. I'm not here to fight with anybody anymore. And I just want to let you know that. But the reason I brought the whole thing up, the support we got from a lot of the council, I had residents calling me up. My phone, I couldn't even answer any because it was so many calls going on. In fact, Dr. Greenberg is probably the one that scared me the most. She showed up at the hospital as she was leaving. When I saw the look on her face, I figured she was dead. So anyway, we finally picked out a cardiologist today, and he was amazed that this machine she was on and everything, that she looked the way she was, and he's reading the report from Robert Wood. They gave her a 6% chance of survival at Robert Wood. So I just want to thank everybody, the council, the mayor, anybody that called me. I just want to thank everybody for their support. I really appreciate it. And I will be different here. Thank you. It's not worth it for me to argue. My whole life changed. It's not worth it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Anyone else on this side for council comments? How about on my right? Mrs. Walker?
Yes, I just want everyone to know that the Historical Society, along with the Township, they're working together to help celebrate Old Bridge's 150th anniversary with a year-long celebration. So just stay tuned, because next council meeting on March 11th, we're going to have a special presentation when it's all going to be revealed, some things that are happening throughout the year.
Anyone else on my right? Mr. Pescetti?
Yeah, real quick. Someone told me that there were people working in the Lawrence Harbor Senior Center a few weeks back. Is there any truth to that? I mean, if we're,
There is a cleanup, asbestos cleanup and other jobs that is going on inside the building. Those are all the contractor hired by the township
Prior to demolition.
before the demolition.
yeah, you
we
got to
have
get
do
that
it.
out of there before it demos. Okay, thanks.
Okay. Anyone else? Dr. Greenberg?
Yes, I would just like to just mention for a minute about the Trap, Neuter, Vaccinate, Release program. People asked me about it, and I just want to report that last year, I'm so happy to say that the administrators of the program, Save All Stray Cats and Happy Homes, have spayed and neutered more than 300 cats, and they adopted out more than 50 kittens that they found that were friendly kittens. So the program does work, and I hope that it continues, because by spaying and neutering those 300 cats, actually it stopped the reproduction, and there would have been over 1,000 more cats, and if you can imagine, they would just keep on reproducing. So hopefully this program can go forward, and we'll get good results from it. And the 3 people that are involved with it, I'd like to say thank you to Mr. James Morrison, Elaine Brodsky, and Madeline Pachori. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else for council comments? Okay, seeing no hands, we'll close the council comments. All right, report of the township clerk.
Okay. For those of you who don't know, Vivian Owen, our Assistant Deputy Clerk, is retiring at the end of this month. After almost 23 years of service to the Township of Old Bridge, tonight's meeting will be her last council meeting that she will be assisting us with. I personally want to take the opportunity to thank Vivian for all of her years of hard work, service, and professionalism to the clerk's office. Vivian, we all wish you the very best as you start this new chapter in your life. Best of luck always.
Council President, if I may, Vivian, congratulations. Vivian and I work very closely. We're neighbors in the office, and I know her for many years, and her hard work and her knowledge is going to be missed. Thank you.
Yes, I would like to thank you also, Vivian, for all the time that you've helped me while I had the presidency, which sometimes, you know, in the first few months especially, you're nervous, a lot of questions, but you've always been so gracious and helpful to me, and I will miss you as well. Report of the township attorney?
You got to accept my report.
Oh, I'm sorry, your report, Stella, I'm sorry.
Okay, motion?
Motion? Motion to accept Stella's report?
Second.
Okay, Dr. Greenberg, Mrs. Walker.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Cahill?
Yes.
And Dr. Greenberg?
Yes.
Mr. Merwin? Yes. Mr. Murphy?
He's off dais, I believe.
Mr. Pescetti?
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
President Soha?
Yes, good luck,
Eight
Vivian.
yes.
Report of the township attorney.
It's not a report, but what I wanted to do was just get a clarification on the resolution that was passed earlier about the state DOT. And if I can make a suggestion, you can accept it or not. Instead of a blanket resolution just telling them or asking them to do a study, I would think it'd be beneficial to, instead of just having a blanket resolution, if we could have the information from the police department as to the number of accidents, how many years back you want to go, the fatalities, in addition to the dates and copies of the letters that were sent by the administration over the last, whatever, 6 years, to accompany the resolution, so it's not just a standard form letter that says, you know, we want you to do a study. I think it'd be more impressive, and we can set a good tone with them. And I would send it to the DOT. I'd send it to the governor, so that you're on record if something comes down the pike. They do have defenses to design defenses under the Tort Act, but I just think it would be beneficial and would go a long way. instead of just a blanket resolution. And so if you're willing to accept that, I certainly wouldn't be able to draft it tomorrow to be signed, but I could have it for you for the next meeting, if that's acceptable.
I think it's great.
Okay, I think that makes good sense, right? Everyone concur?
Yep.
All right. Thank you very much, Ken. Thank you. Thank you. Next will be our administrative report. Mr. Shah?
Thank you, Council President. Administrative report, February 25th, 2019. Item number 1, library HVAC unit replacements. Bids were received and opened in public on February 14, 2019 at 10 a.m. for library HVAC unit replacement contract number 2019-31. 13 contractors submitted bids that range from $386,550 to $627,000. Hannah Mechanical Contractor is the lowest bidder at $386,550. The replacement will consist of a new modern but essentially like-for-like equipment, environmentally friendly refrigerant, and new DDC control and energy reduction protocols. In addition to this work, a new building automation control system will be installed for the building. Award of this contract has been included in tonight's consent agenda for approval by the council. Construction is anticipated to begin in spring of 2019. The project is funded through capital bond. Item number 2, Economic Development Ordinance. The administration is recommending changes to the EDO district zoning and design standards and related ordinance that are included in tonight's agenda for discussion. We're offering more flexibility in the standards in efforts to make this regulation more consistent with other sections of Land Development Ordinance and to attract more businesses to Old Bridge. Item number 3, full-day summer camp registration. The Township's before and after care program will open online registration for their full-day summer camp program. The Tiny Turtle Camp will register on March 5th. The Shark Camp will register on March 6th. The middle school and high school camp will register on March 7th. All registration will start at 6 p.m. For information, check the website for more information at www.oldbridge.com/daycare. Item number 4, Middlesex County Residential Paper Shred. On Saturday, March 23, 2019, the Township of Old Bridge, in conjunction with the Middlesex County Board of Chosen Freeholders, will be hosting the Residential Paper Shred event from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. at Township Department of Public Works located at the Municipal Complex. This mobile paper shredding service is now open to Middlesex County residents only. Please note this is for confidential documents. All other papers and junk mail can be placed in your recycling container for regular pickups. For additional information, residents should contact the recycling department at recycling@oldbridge.com. Item number 5, Mayor's first annual 5K race honoring our hometown heroes. On behalf of the Mayor and Health and Wellness Council, we would like to invite you to come join us on March 38, 2019 at Mayor's inaugural Health and Wellness 5K honoring our hometown heroes. The Mayor Health and Wellness Fair will begin immediately following the race with the various businesses and organizations offering giveaways, activities, information, and more. In addition, we are pleased to have the James A. McDavid Elementary School host their 2019 Junior Unity Tour at the fair. The purpose of this Junior Unity Tour team is to raise awareness of the law enforcement officers who have died in line of duty. They are inviting all elementary students, grade K2 at 9:30 and grade 3 and 5 at 11 a.m. to join them and ride their bicycle to raise money for National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial and Museum. To register for 5K run/walk, go to oldbridge.com/events, and thank you for your support. I just want to advise you, council, that as of today, I think we have 200 runners signed up already. So this should be a successful event. Item number 6, Old Bridge Big Spring Fling Week. The Township and Mayor's Office of Economic Development will launch the townwide Big Spring Fling Week campaign during the week of Saturday, April 13th through Saturday of April 20. A week dedicated to shop, dine, and buy local in Old Bridge. We're asking everybody to show supports to businesses and entrepreneurs in Old Bridge by shopping and eating locally. The Shop, Dine, and Buy Local campaign have been developed to connect the Old Bridge community to all our local businesses. More information will be available as the event gets closer, so please mark your calendar and plan to shop, dine, and buy local in town that week, or entire year for that. Item number 7, recycling right. As a reminder to Township residents, State of New Jersey is strictly enforcing recycling laws and regulation. Recyclables in plastic bags are not acceptable. No plastic bags of any kind or any color can be used at the curb, or they will be rejected. Contaminated recyclable can also be rejected. Download the new Recycling Coach app to learn more about how to recycle right. You can also set up scheduling reminders, storm alerts, and more. Information on app can be found on website at oldbridge.com/recycling.
I move it.
Thank you, Mr. Shaw. Does anyone have any comments or questions on the administrative report? Seeing no hands, motion made by Mr. Murphy.
Second.
You second? Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Cahill?
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg?
Yes.
Mr. Merwin?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Piscitty?
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
President Soho?
Yes.
9 yes.
Okay, next is the consent agenda. I need a motion and a second. I'll bring it out to the public and then back to the council for separation. Yep, second by Dr. Greenberg. Yep. All right, is there anyone in the public who wishes to be heard about the consent agenda items? Seeing no hands, we'll close the public portion, and now I'll come to council for their separations. Anyone separations on my left?
1, 5, and 6.
Anyone on my right? Okay, and I would like to separate C3, and I'd like to separate C9. I will ask for a motion for the balance.
Move it.
Moved by Dr. Greenberg Belli, second by Mr. Rizzoli.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Cahill?
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg?
Yes.
Mr. Merwin?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Piscitty?
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
President Soho?
Yes.
9 yes.
C1, Mr. Merwin.
Yes, this is great, and it's a long time coming. I want to thank Mark for getting this moving. Why is there a $4,000, 8,500 to 12,500?
I think if you look at the memo that included in, along with the agenda item by a township engineer, primarily we have requested additional traffic counts at the Ticetown and Wisdom Way intersection on weekdays from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. The count will be manual counts and will be integrated with the existing traffic count data previously performed by CME Associates. So, in order to get the proper result and understanding that she has requested additional services, and that's the reason that we need to, pay additional money.
Okay. That was it.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
Want to move it, Mark?
Second.
Okay. Moved by Dr. Greenberg Belli, second by Mr. Rizzoli.
Dr. Greenberg moved it?
Mm-hmm.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Cahill?
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg? Yes. Mr. Merwin?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Piscitty?
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
President Soho?
Yes.
9 yes.
C3, I separated. It's a resolution opposing the construction of a winter salt barn located in the NJSH Route 9 median area at the NJSH Route 18 interchange. And the mayor had spoken about it earlier, and I cannot believe that DOT would want to place something of that size in that area that's really another dangerous area. So once again, I think it's very good that we put out a resolution letting DOT know that we really think that is a very bad place to put something like that. So I will make the motion. Anyone else have a comment? Mr. Cahill?
Yeah, I'd also like to comment. I actually was going to separate it, and you separated it, but that's great. This is probably one of the dumbest things I've ever heard come from the state.
Thank you.
And I'm not trying to be flip.
No.
I mean, we just had a conversation about, and we passed a resolution, and I commend Mr. Rizzoli and I commend our attorney for trying to put together a thoughtful resolution that will go to the state and talk about our concerns. And then to look and see that the state wants to put a salt bin in the area between Route 9 and Route 18. I go by there every single day, both going to work and coming home. And the stupidity about actually thinking about putting a salt facility there is unbelievably dangerous. And I hope that the state takes our resolution seriously, because I can see massive amounts of traffic and God forbid, accidents if that happens. So I'm strongly going to support this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Pescetti?
Yeah, I want to echo those comments. That's one of the entryways to Old Bridge, and it would be an eyesore, number one. I mean, who wants to see this big, disgusting salt bin coming into beautiful Old Bridge? And that area is very, very dangerous. You're going to have trucks coming in and out right on Route 9. You got a serious hazard there. So I'm supporting it as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else here? Dr. Greenberg?
Yes, when you read something like this and the state just comes up on the whim that they want to put a winter salt barn in an area, in that particular area in Old Bridge, you realize that they really don't pay attention to their roads, their infrastructure, their connections from one town to another, traffic studies. I don't know the genius that came up with this idea, whether he or she was ever to Old Bridge. What entered their mind, you have to question, that they would want to do something like this. So it's pretty amazing. I think it goes with everything, because if we reach out to them multiple times before to come to Old Bridge and witness Route 9, you know that we've been ignored. And it's shame on them when lives have been lost and they don't come then, but now they came and they decided on a map, because obviously they didn't come to Old Bridge and visit to do this. This was off some map. I think it is really disturbing to me that there are people in the positions that they are and getting the tax dollar salaries that aren't doing their due diligence. And it's really disturbing, and I hope this goes down and this never happens. And if we're ignored because they say, oh, it's state property, we can do it, I think the residents of Old Bridge, we should all get together and have some signs and camp out there, because we have to be proactive in this, because this will be dangerous. Dangerous. So thank you, everyone, for the attention given to this, and we'll let you know what happens with the response that we get, if they, take us seriously, because I know that we've made requests to the states multiple times and we're ignored, but we won't give up for it.
Mr. Murphy?
I agree with everybody. I mean, jockeying off Texas Road to get into those stores, you have the left lane and the right lane, they can both turn right, and then they got Route 18 right there. It's a hazard. I mean, it's a hazard now. So they're just adding to the problem. We have to somehow stop this. I don't know if there's a way you can do it, or other than ask them, or just not let them do it, but I don't know how you do that. I can't see why they can't find a piece of property somewhere where they can get in and out. They're going to go up on it, you're saying they're going to go up on an island and then come off the island into traffic moving at 60 miles an hour? That makes no sense.
No, none.
They're talking about cutting down all the trees there in order to put the facility.
They're doing that there too?
Yes.
Why don't they just cut down all the trees in Old Bridge? I mean, it's getting crazy.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes, I'm definitely going to support this resolution. However, I don't have much faith in the state and what the reaction's going to be, because like I said, time and time again, we've asked for their help on so many things, and they don't seem to be paying attention, and I don't know what more we're going to have to do, but if this doesn't pass, I think we're going to have to band together as a town, because the state really doesn't care about us.
I agree, and I think we're being very proactive here with this resolution. I think we're out ahead of it, and I think we have a very good chance to try and combat this because we are very early in putting out this resolution, so I'm glad.
Chairperson.
Yes, Mr. Merwin.
Yes, a question to the attorney. Are they exempt from our planning? Do they have to come before our planning board? This would never pass our planning board. We're sure of that. This would not pass their planning board. This would not pass their DOT regulations if we had a private sector person come in and try to put this before our planning board or our zoning board. The DOT would knock it down. Why are we not holding them to the same standards when it comes to that?
That's why the resolution.
It's the state.
Council President, if I may, just add
Yes,
a few things.
Mayor.
What's even more disturbing than everything that has been said tonight on the dais is that we were notified at the 11th hour that wasn't if or when, but this depot was coming. They moved this through preliminary design without any type of community outreach program. They are in final design. We actually have construction plans.
Are they able to do that? That's what
I
I'm
believe they are.
State, I believe the state can.
And that's
why I asked
where
the
we're...
attorney. He's the
I
one
said
that went
they
to
are,
school.
yes,
Well,
yes.
you did. Okay, I didn't hear you.
Now, and everyone made comments. Obviously, public safety is number one. Ingress and egress from this facility is from the fast lane going south and into the fast lane coming north, and the approach to Route 18, where dump trucks will be stopping to make left-hand turns in the fast lane. There's no road improvements for deceleration lanes. There's no improvements for acceleration lanes. I can't use the same language you used when I talk to the professionals, but I will certainly convey Mr. Cahill's opinion of them. But no, it's dangerous.
Quote me verbatim, Mayor. I don't mind.
And as Mr. Piscetti said, this will be the first structure you see coming into Old Bridge. We might as well put a sign on it, "Welcome to Old Bridge." This will be the first structure you see, and it's right across in the middle of one of our most upscale shopping centers, the shops at Old Bridge. This is what you will see approaching the shops and leaving the shops of Old Bridge.
I hope that we object strenuously. I hope that we send this objection to our state senator.
There.
He is,
Tomorrow morning,
he's our guy,
as soon as
so,
you pass this resolution, the ink will be wet by the time they get it.
very good, thank you.
All right.
Can we just go to the governor or something
I
and
spoke
get him
with the
out here?
governor
Or you
today.
talk to him
His
too?
office. I did speak with the governor's office today. They're well aware of what's going on. I called them and let them know what happened. I don't know, they sounded surprised, but who knows?
Can we get our lawyer to do an injunction?
All right.
We'll explore all avenues to try to stop this.
Right.
I'm going to make a suggestion. I don't know if it'll work. I spoke to Mr. Shaw last week when I saw this come through. I think the only way you derail this is if the township has property someplace else that would be suitable and the township would be willing to transfer that property over or give them a long-term lease that's, close to Route 9 and 18 that the township owns, you may be able to convince them that that's a better move. That may be an alternative if you don't get any quick response. But where it's planned now, and as far along as they are, it's going to be very difficult to stop the state from moving
I've made
forward.
that suggestion in my comments to our legislators and to the governor's office that I think there's a potential site that would serve everyone better, Township of Old Bridge and the DOT.
So,
and I don't want to disclose anything without.
right, and I didn't want to
talking
say anything more than that, but that's just something
But
I
thank you
thought
for
about.
bringing that up. That was part of our discussions.
All right, are we all
I
good?
just have one quick question. Now, when they decided to do this, usually there's a reason why they pick that site. And so sometimes there's multiple sites that they look at. Did they give you any information on that?
Dr. Greenberg, I can only assume that because it's by Route 18 and Route 9, they felt there was easy access to get the materials on the road quicker. I don't know where they're coming from now when they salt these areas. I think it's coming from Sayreville. That's the closest DOT yard with a salt storage facility. So my only thinking is that they plan on getting the material on the roads faster, but we haven't had an issue with material or brining in these areas where it was delayed. I see the trucks are staged plenty in time. I mean, the governor has declared a state of emergency, I don't know how many times, with a quarter-inch of snow. So I don't think there's been a delay and where you could justify a new, unless the old facilities are worn, I don't know.
Because usually they have them like industrial parks or something like that.
Yeah, they're usually off the
But
road.
not in the center of a town, welcome to Old Bridge sign we could put on it.
Okay, are we good now? All right,
We will
so
explore every option.
I made a motion. Do we have a second? Second. Okay. Yep.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Cahill?
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg?
Yes.
Mr. Merwin?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Pescetti? Mr. Rizzoli?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
President Sohar?
Yes.
9 yes.
Next will be C5, Mr. Merwin.
Like I said at the last group, I'm only removing it so that we publicly acknowledge that we hired a police officer, Brian Riker. Is that it?
Yeah, that's how
Riker,
you pronounce it.
and welcome him to the force.
Okay,
And may he
thank you.
stay safe.
All right. Anyone else? Do I have a motion? Move it.
Second, move it, whatever.
Yep.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Cahill?
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg?
Yes.
Mr. Merwin?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy? Mr. Pescetti?
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
President Sohar?
Yes.
9 yes.
D6, Mr. Merwin.
Yes. I pretty much, I had marked it up prior to asking the question during the council comments, so I pretty much got the answers from Mr. Shah. So if nobody else has it, I'll move it.
Second.
But I do have one question.
Yes.
The asbestos, that done?
It's as of today, that they probably either today or before he starts the demolition work, it will be completed.
Okay, very good.
There was two phases, Mr. Mayor. One was the removal of all furnitures and anything that was not glued down, as they like to say, had to come out of the building by a specialized contractor. And now the asbestos contractor went in and removed all the identified asbestos. And I believe they're waiting for final clearances. And we can't award the demolition contract until we get that. And they were provided by a third party. That's just a process you have to go through when you knock a building down.
Okay, anyone else? Do I have a motion?
Yeah, move it.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, great.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Cahill?
Yes.
And Dr. Greenberg?
Yes.
Mr. Merwin?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Pescetti?
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
President Sohar?
Yes.
9 yes.
Okay, C9, I separated it because it's in reference to the DOT local aid program for 2019 that we made, what do you call it, an application for, to fund resurfacing of a portion of Morganville Road from Old Bridge Mattawan Road to the municipal border with Aberdeen Township. I just want to comment on this. That area is in such bad need of repair. Anyone who lives on in that part of Old Bridge, whether you're in Cedar Ridge or you're in Yardley Manor, any of those going out that way, a majority of people take that corridor, and it is absolutely in horrible shape. So I am hoping that this works out and that we are able to do that project. There would be a lot of grateful people down on that side of town. Thank you. I'll make a motion.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more that the road is terrible. Have we contacted Marlboro Township, let them know that we're doing this, and maybe they want to piggyback onto this to do their section? Because that is right where the worst part of that road is, some of it is right at the borderline.
We are in communication with, I have spoken to the business administrator of Marlboro, and also Nicole has spoken to him and talking to their engineer, and we're going to try to do the joint road program and extend it so that we get better economic of scale.
Very good, thank you.
Yeah, that would be a wonderful project. It really would benefit everybody in that area.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Cahill?
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg?
Yes.
Mr. Merwin?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Biscotti?
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
President Sohar?
Yes.
9 yes.
Okay. We have no ordinances for first reading, so we will go into discussion ordinances. The first one is discussion DO1, amending land development ordinance, known as LOD, Chapter 250-6, entitled Definitions Ordinance.
Council President, Veena Savant, our township planner, and their team will make a presentation that will cover all the DO1
Okay.
to DO4, and then council can consider to move it up for the first reading.
Do you want me to read them all first now?
Well, after the presentation,
Okay.
you can move it up for the first
All
reading.
right.
That's our recommendation.
Okay, good evening.
Good evening. We are here to present the proposed
And
ordinances.
can you introduce yourselves, please, for the people at home?
So, we are here to present the proposed ordinances related to the Economic Development Opportunity Zone. And before I begin the presentation, I want to introduce you to Lauren Damiano, the Assistant Township Planner. She has been working with the department for almost 6 months now. She has proved to be an very useful asset. She works very, very hard. She brings in a wealth of knowledge, and she has worked extremely hard on this ordinance. Mr. Gill needs no introduction. Everybody is familiar with him, but without him, this wouldn't have been possible because he really deals with most of the development applications that come in, especially when it relates to uses. So we have put this together. There has been a lot of efforts that have gone into it. For the last 4 months, we have worked with the Economic Development Office, the Zoning Office, myself. So here we are. We are proposing changes to the EDO, which is section 38.1. And as we are changing this ordinance, there are 3 other ordinances that get impacted. So first is the definition section, because we are adding new definitions. Then it's the prohibited use section, because now that we are making this ordinance more flexible, we want to ensure that the prohibited section is intact. And then it's the conditional uses. So when I started working with Old Bridge almost 10 months back, the first thing I noticed was that Old Bridge still uses the North American Industrial Classification System, whereas most of the towns I have worked in in the last 15, 20 years, they have more general type of uses. The North American standards are very well crafted, but they are very specific. So to give you an example, you can sell ice cream, but you can't sell cookies in the zone. So to me, essentially, you're selling something. And if you're selling, that use should be allowed in an economic development opportunity zone. I have got calls from the council asking, why is pet grooming not permitted? But it is because kenneling is permitted by the permitted use section. There is no mention of grooming. And the ordinance clearly states anything that is not listed under the permitted use section is prohibited, is not permitted. And in the past few months, Mr. Gill, myself, we have come across so many situations when we are called in. The Director of Economic Development would call us to ask us, what do you think about this use? And my answer has always been that the first section itself states if it's not listed, it's not permitted. So it goes to the zoning board. And here, when we are trying to be more business friendly, we have to shoo away many of these businesses because they're not permitted. And the minute we hear that I have to go to the zoning board, obviously people don't want to take that extra effort. So this is our effort to bring this together. This is the first time we will be moving away from the NIC system. When we created these 4 ordinances, we had in mind that in future we will have to work on each of the different zones we have. So it's not going to stop with the ADO. There will be the CN zone, the CM zone, the commercial, basically all the commercial zones. So just first slide. So in 2017, when Old Bridge adopted its master plan re-examination report, one of the recommendations of the report was that current EDO zones have a purpose of encouraging the development of businesses and non-residential uses. The land uses permitted in the EDO 1 and EDO 3 zones should be studied to determine whether they should be expanded to create greater flexibility and diversity that would strengthen the local economy and benefit Old Bridge Township. These proposed ordinances are an effort to really advance this recommendation. It is also an effort to achieve the township's goal in being recognized as a business-friendly community. Next slide. To introduce you to the zones, we have the aerial map of Old Bridge. What you see in blue is the EDO 1 zone. What you see in red is the EDO 3 zone. Now notice, EDO 1 zone is mostly located along Route 34, whereas and EDO 1 is also located along English Town Road. There's a tiny portion of EDO 1 along Route 516. Then you have EDO 3, which is mostly located along Route 9 and Route 18. Next slide. This is again a parcel map of Old Bridge with properties in blue that are EDO 1 and properties in red that are EDO 3. Next slide. The current issues with the ordinance. So one, as I mentioned before, the ordinance is over-restrictive of permissible uses. To give you a very accurate example, in the EDO zone, entertainment or performing arts is permitted, but the actual use is not permitted. You could have an office space related to the performing arts, but you cannot have a performing arts or entertainment use in the EDO zone. So again, kenneling is permitted, but grooming is not permitted. Like I said before, you could sell ice creams, but you can't sell cookies. So we want to get away from having an over-restrictive ordinance. The other thing I noticed was the purpose of EDO 1 and EDO 3 zone. Both of them are identical, but to me as a planner, they can't be identical because EDO 3 zone is located mostly along 18 and 9, which is more highway commercial, whereas EDO 1 zone is located along Route 34 or English Town Road, which is more neighborhood commercial. So the purpose has to be different because one caters to the residents of the neighborhood while the other caters to a more regional kind of population. The other thing I noticed was Route 34. It has a heavy concentration of auto-related uses. Some of them, some of the vehicles are parked right up to the street right of way. There is no screening, there's no landscape buffer, they're not maintained. The other thing I noticed was the bulk and the yard standards encourage for huge front yard setbacks. And can you go to the next slide? Thank you. So if you notice in the slide, the one in the center is Marketplace, the shopping center. The way the building is aligned, it's L-shaped going to the back. But what happens with these type of designs is it encourages parking in the front yard. We really don't want to see a sea of parking. We want to see the buildings closer. We want to see pedestrians walking on those streets. So this ordinance, the proposed ordinance, will kind of address that issue. The other thing I noticed is one of the first few applications I was reviewing, it was not in the EDO zone, but it was something that really amazed me, was drive-through facilities. The township's land development ordinance really doesn't talk about drive-through facilities. So the way it has been treated in the past is a drive-through facility is accessory to the principal use. So if the principal use is permitted, then a drive-through facility is permitted. But to me, in something what you see across the street, a town center district where you want compact development, you want it to be more pedestrian friendly, you want more mixed use, how can you really have so many drive-throughs? Because when you encourage a drive-through facility in such designs, they have their bailout lanes, they have the drive-through lanes, and it just takes away from the density or bringing it just doesn't encourage buildings to be designed closer. So, and I was at that point a little frustrated thinking, oh my God, we cannot really regulate it because the ordinance is silent. So in this, we wanted to take advantage of that, introduce them as conditional uses, because drive-through facilities, in my experience, most of the towns have them as conditional uses because you need to have a minimum lot area, you need to have bailout lanes, you need to know where those drive-through windows should be located. You don't want them to be in the front yard because then you'll have drive-through lanes coming in the front yard. If you want buildings to be closer, that's not going to be possible. So we worked through all these minute details, and we put this ordinance together with the uses. We ensured that when we were creating new definitions, the older section of the ordinance had a list, and we made sure that each and every use is covered under this. So to give you an example, we created a definition of retail sales and services. So whether you're selling an ice cream or cookie, you still can sell it, and you don't have to come to the zoning board to be able to do that. We created newer definitions. There was a reference of light industrial use everywhere in the LDO, but nobody really defined light industrial use. So how do you define it? Because, you know, it should be based on the performance standards, but there is no way to evaluate between a cement manufacturing use and a light industrial use. So we created definition for that. In the last few months, I remember the director of economic development calling me to ask me, what do you think about wellness centers? And my first reaction was, okay, it should be allowed in an EDO zone. But then when I started researching, there is a hitch. Wellness centers, some of them, they tend to render as methadone clinics, drug abuse, rehab. So we have to be careful when we allow these uses. So we added a definition for wellness centers and spas to exclude these type of uses. We worked very closely with the prohibited use section to ensure that whatever has been prohibited so far in the town is also covered, and we don't leave any loose ends to that effect. So, next slide. This is the section of Route 34, which has the Wawa at the corner. But if you notice, I think the text is kind of blurred, but you'll see a lot of auto-related uses. There's Route 34 Auto, there's Delta Collision, which has actually 3 separate buildings, and all of them are related to auto. They often park in almost encroaching into the street right of way. Sometimes you feel as if the car is going to jump onto the street. But you have across the Wawa, there is Auto Lab Pro, which is again an auto-related use. So we wanted to keep this in mind as to what is our vision for Route 34 going to be. Are we going to allow more of such uses, or do we want to curb down or keep it limited to what we have and improve the look or the overall appearance of the EDO zone? So next slide. These are again the auto-related uses marked up. Next slide. Next slide. So again, these definitions were created to have a broader range, to clarify things and not have kind of anything which is in doubts. And you know, if it's a sale, then it's covered. When it's grooming, it's covered under retail services. Next slide. So these are the list of definitions we added. The convenience store and the mini mart, the two text that is in black, is something that was retained from the EDO zone. So it's not something new we created. It's just been transferred into the definition section, because that was one thing I observed when I was looking at the existing ordinance. The EDO zone had conditional use under it, definitions under it, but we already have a section in the LDO for definitions. We have a section in the LDO for conditional use, but instead of tugging them in the original document, they were all embedded in the EDO zone. So we're trying to make it more simpler. One of the definitions we added was retail convenience with fueling service. A use like Wawa is considered to have retail convenience as their primary use, and fueling service is considered their secondary use. They are always classified differently than gas stations with convenience stores or gas stations with mini marts. They often have more minimum lot area requirements because they occupy more space. So we added a definition for that. We have definition for retail food establishment. Again, like I mentioned before, wellness spas have been included. Light industrial use has been added. Heavy industrial use has been added. Next slide. EDO 1. So, like I said before, EDO 1 is primarily located along Route 34 and English Town Road. It generally caters to the needs of the immediate residents in the neighborhood. So, the purpose has been recrafted, and it exactly says what I said. Next slide. If you look at the permitted use section, we have more broader terms now. We have retail sale and services. We have retail food establishments, anything related to food, bank and financial institutions, studios for a teacher of art, music, dance, art galleries, professional photography studios, health and fitness centers, offices. There are 3 different types: business offices, medical offices, professional offices, fast food restaurants, full service, limited service, eating places. I want to focus on educational services because that's something we really tweaked a little bit. So these are, in the original ordinance, they were permitted as conditional use, and it talked about colleges, junior colleges, and bigger institutions. But in the past, we have got requests for a tutoring class or something which is on a smaller scale. So we added that as a permitted use, wherein we restrict it to 10,000 square feet. And the 10,000 number actually came from the minimum lot size, because in EDO 1 zone, the minimum lot size is 1 acre. And based on the FAR and the building coverage, which we haven't changed, we came up with the 10,000 square feet. The same thing, mini warehousing. It's limited to 15,000 square feet, and it's completely based, it's a math calculation. We came up with that number based on the minimum lot size, and there are existing flex warehouse, mini warehouse locations on Route 34 which comply with this. Again, wellness center and spa is added, but the definition excludes methadone clinics. These are the conditional uses. A gasoline station with mini-marts were always permitted. Mini-marts are the ones that have convenience stores that are smaller than 2,000 square feet. We added drive-through facilities related to banks, financial institutions, pharmacy, or fast food restaurants. Lauren will go into detail with the conditional uses, but we added conditions like having an extra bailout lane, having not having drive-through windows in the front yard. They could be anywhere on the in the rear side of the building or the side of the building, but not in the front yard. Auto repair and maintenance. Can I have water?
She has a water bottle.
You continue.
All right. Okay, I wasn't prepared to speak. I was just supposed to be here for the Q&A. I apologize. Good evening, Councilman. Okay, so as we were discussing, you sure?
Yeah.
All right. Because I don't want to shoot my summation early.
Going to the design standards.
Okay, so one of the things that we were discussing is, the Economic Development Opportunity Zone was meant to be just that, a development opportunity zone. And it was put into practice, I think, in the summer of 2015. So we've had some years to kind of see how it fleshes out in practical applications. And one of the things that I think we've been trying to drive home is that there are some practical difficulties, not only with the uses, but also with the design standards. The design standards were mirrored from existing uses and existing zones and other zones that I guess the professionals at the time had been involved with. And they're certainly not bad, but now that we've seen it, we think we can do some better changes and make this zone a little bit more vibrant. And one of the things that we did fundamentally is trying to decide
as Vina was saying, is what is our vision for these zones? And there's been a hybridization of visions. We want things like drive-through facilities, but we also want dense community-feeling downtowns like our town center district, which kind of our EDO is molded off of. And that's it's kind of like a built-in inconsistency, because you've got promotion of vehicular traffic, but you want pedestrian traffic. So one of the things that we did in looking at this EDO reexamination and proposing these new ordinances is to bring the buildings closer to the street, minimize parking in the front, increase buffers in the front to create more visual landscaping, more pedestrian walkways, storefronts that will be utilized, and then create either side or rear parking facilities so that we're not looking at seas of parking, because two things happen when we look at seas of parking: either too busy of a parking lot and we don't want to pull in, or an empty parking lot and it doesn't look interesting enough. So if we see some nice looking people, maybe we'll want to sit and chat with them.
I can take it.
You can take it from here?
Yes.
Okay.
So, talking about the design standards, one thing I noticed was that the EDO ordinance continuously referred back to the TCD standards. So, for lighting fixtures, you should have lighting fixtures which are consistent with the TCD design standards, or you should have a buffer requirement based on the TCD standards. But then TCD is completely different ordinance. We don't want a cross-reference all the time. So we have these new standards which are consistent, because to me, the EDO 1 zone is going to be quite identical to the TCD zone. And because of that, we also made tweaks to the building, the bulk requirements. So the FAR, or the landscape area ratio, hasn't been altered, or the building height has not been altered. But what different you see is the minimum front yard setback and the maximum front yard setback requirement. The LDO has just a front yard setback requirement, but what that does is it allows the designer to put the building anywhere beyond that 50 feet. So which means that he could put his building at 100 feet. He could put his building at 150 feet from the street right of way. But when you want the buildings to be closer, you don't want parking in the front, you should have a minimum and a maximum setback, so that beyond that maximum, he really cannot put his building. You cannot have a sea of parking. So we added the minimum front yard setback requirement. We added the maximum front yard setback requirement. We have different setbacks along the state highway. When it's a local street, there's a different requirement. So you'll see requirements for Route 34 and English Town Road. And we actually sketched out drawings to see whether the design really works or not. Will there be enough parking lane? Will there be a drive-through lane in front? So we sketched out to see if it really works or it's going to be an issue. The other thing we changed was the buffer. I mean, these are design. You can go to the next slide. These are design standards which have not changed drastically. They have been pretty consistent, because the EDO 1 was based off the TCD design standards. So we just changed language, that cross-reference. But the one thing that has changed is the buffer requirement. So I have noticed in the last 10 months, every application that comes in front of the planning board requires a variance for buffers. And the reason being is, on one end, you want your buildings to be closer, you want it to be more pedestrian friendly, but then you're requiring a 75 feet buffer along state highways. I believe it's not the 2017 re-exam, but the previous one. I think it's the 2011 master plan actually made one of the recommendations was that they re-evaluate the buffers and change it to 25 feet. So this EDO ordinance is consistent with that recommendation, because I actually went through Google imagery and went and measured buffers along the highways, and they turn out to be not more than 25 to 30 feet. I haven't seen a 75-foot buffer. I know there is an application coming in front of the planning board next week. Again, they need a buffer for the setback along Route 9, I believe. Again, with Route 34, those properties are only, the minimum lot size is 1 acre. So in 1 acre, if you're asking them to have a 25-foot buffer along the street right of way, what really remains for them to build? Like, there's very little scope for them to design. So what we did is, if your property, if a non-residential property abuts a residential zone or a residential property, then they need to have a 25-foot setback. But along buffers, along the street right-of-way, we really don't require those buffers because we want this route to be more pedestrian-friendly. We want to see some activity there. So that's the only change that really happened. Next slide. Next slide. The EDO3 zone, the purpose of this, we haven't changed at all because this was tailor-made for highway, commercial, or regional kind of traffic, so it remains the same. It's unaltered. Next slide. So now here, all the uses that are permitted in the EDO1 zone are permitted in the EDO3 zone, except for, you'll notice that educational uses, anything that is beyond 10,000 square feet, and I believe there is a limit. Up to? Yeah, so they are treated as conditional uses because there you require bigger area. There's more parking needed. If it's a junior college, it is going to require more area. You can't fit them on a 3-acre parcel. So we increase the requirement to 5 acres. And warehousing, where in the EDO1 zone we had a limit of 15,000, we go beyond that in the EDO3 zone. This has more service-related uses like hotels and animal daycares, daycare facilities, funeral homes, amusement parks, entertainment kind of facilities, health and fitness centers. Next slide. Again, we have the retail convenience and fueling services, the gas stations, and then we added banks and restaurants on pad sites with drive-through and without drive-throughs. So pad sites was another concept which was never discussed. Although we have pad sites in Old Bridge, it was never taken into account. So in EDO3, we allowed for pad sites. So if you notice, some of the parcels along Route 18 or Route 9 are deep enough. And what happens when the lot is too deep is, if you don't allow a pad site development, there will be a shopping center or a building way at the back, and you have a sea of parking, but then you're not really utilizing that lot. So we actually went through the parcel data, we examined properties to see if pad sites are really possible, and then we came up with standards for pad sites. So that was an addition. Rest all remains the same. Again, with the bulk standards, like I said before, we have a minimum front yard and the maximum front yard. We shrunk the required buffer because originally the ordinance required a 75-foot buffer, whereas we reduced it down to 25 feet. Whereas when a non-residential property abuts a residential zone, then they are required to have a 50-foot buffer because these are bigger parcels. Next slide. The one thing I noticed was the design standards for EDO3 zone, again, were crafted like they were crafted for the town center district. And this is, I can understand with EDO1 because it is along the neighborhood commercials, like it's along the neighborhood commercial strip, but with these, they are along a highway commercial zone. You really can't have the town center district standards here. You can't have street lamps that are in sync with the TCD standards. So we tweaked that, we made changes to that, we had sidewalk requirements, we added street furniture. Again, the buffer requirement has been changed, and that's what you see. Signage, we want to deal it with, when we deal with the signage ordinance. We are working on the signage ordinance. At some point, we will be in front of you again. So signage, we just reference it to the LDO. Next slide. I'll hand over to Lauren, and she'll go over the prohibited uses section.
All right. So,
When we were looking at the schedule of permitted uses, we noticed that there were quite a few uses that were not permitted in any zones. So we went ahead and moved them all into one cohesive section, so they're all together. And that's an effort to kind of make it a little bit more user-friendly. So for our proposed conditional uses, the highlights are that we made an effort to remove the inconsistencies. So for example, retail sales and services. We removed this because the requirements are actually covered elsewhere in the process. The traffic impact statement is covered in the completeness review. The FAR is covered in the site plan review process, and the parking requirements are covered with the buffer requirements. And we also noticed that the retail sales and services have been included in the CC and CR zones, but were never actually defined. So allowing them as a conditional use actually takes away from the business-friendly goal. So now we have a clear definition that actually makes it a little bit more flexible for the allowance of uses. And also, we added some new conditional uses such as drive-through facilities, retail convenience with fueling services, and banks and restaurants with pad sites, as Vina had mentioned. And so for our first section, the drive-through facilities, Vina had mentioned that what we're going for in this zone is actually more of like a TCD, pedestrian-friendly kind of feel. So the drive-through facilities, there has to be some specific requirements for those. So for example, we don't want any drive-through windows in the front because that would lead to a drive-through lane in the front as well. We would like to have queuing space and a bailout lane. So those are just some of the features that we are now requiring. And with retail gasoline stations with mini-marts, we are now permitting them in the EDO1 and EDO3 zones, and we've added some lot size requirements. We also make a differentiation now between a mini-mart, which is anything under 2,000 square feet, convenience store, which is anything between 2,000 to 5,000 square feet, and then the retail convenience with fueling services, for example, Wawa, they're a little bit bigger and they're unique, so they needed to be separated from the mini-marts and convenience stores. So we've also added lot size, parking, and buffer requirements for those as well. So like I said, with the Wawa, since they are bigger, on average, they're about 5,050 square feet, so we've added a lot size requirement of 51,000 square feet, 5,100 square feet. And the banks and restaurants on pad sites, with or without drive-throughs, we are permitting them in the EDO3 zone, and we've kind of took a chance to look at the pad site potential for the lots along Route 9 and Route 18, and we've now made some area and parking requirements in such a way that will encourage pad sites on those lots where it is possible. Next, the new car dealers, used car dealers, and other recreational vehicle dealers, they are allowed in the EDO3 zone, but we have now added some lot size requirements as well as a buffer requirement for the actual placement of the buildings. We've noticed, especially on Route 34, as Vina had mentioned, that there's like a proliferation of auto-related uses, and so we kind of want to curtail that. So that's where that 1,000-foot buffer will come in. Based on the existing sizes of those lots, we think that 4.5 acres should be enough. And we are also working on removing the display of cars from the landscape buffers, which we've noted that that's a problem. With educational services that are permitted in the EDO3 zone, we have, Vina also had mentioned about the sizing. So we created a lot size requirement for those as well based on a 3-acre FAR. So that makes anything over 10,000 square feet is conditional, and over 45,000 square feet now has a 5-acre minimum lot size requirement. When it comes to accommodation and food services, we now allow, especially with the hotels, because we don't have We have one, but we've now allowed them as conditional use, and we retained it in the EDO3 zone, but we removed it from the EDO1 zone because it's not really aligned with what we're looking for in the EDO1 zone. And back to the automotive repair and maintenance, that is, we've now added a lot size requirement, location and fencing requirements. And we decided to focus on this area to try and address that concentration of auto-related uses in that segment, especially on Route 34. And with the religious organizations, we actually did not make any changes to that. That one has stayed the same. So that is it.
So I'll have Damien just summarize everything.
I have my own mic. A lot of information for the council to consider this evening. I think some of the key takeaway points is that understanding the needs of our residents and business owners, specifically in this case our business owners, and some of the efforts that the mayor's office through the economic development office have been trying to achieve in terms of becoming business friendly, about removing some of the unnecessary, keyword underscore, unnecessary obstacles for some of our businesses that seek to proliferate in town and want to take advantage of opportunities that may exist in Old Bridge that are not realized yet. We have gone through the process of looking at these two zones kind of as a baseline, because the LDO really should be the LDM, the land development monster. There's a lot of things involved that we want to fix, and you can't tackle it all at once. We're gonna eat this sandwich one bite at a time, and this is our first big bite. It's going to remove a lot of the impediments to businesses that historically and I think practically a community wants in town. It's going to keep restrictions on businesses that can get out of hand just because of their nature, not because they're bad-natured businesses. It's just because of the scope and the intensity. I think one of the big ones was the drive-throughs. I don't think our ordinance grappled with it properly in a way that really realized what the potential is for that. And you can see that on places like, I don't know if you're familiar with the Starbucks on Route 9 in Sayreville, but I think they had police there for a number of years queuing traffic because the queues went out onto the roadway. And I think if the site would have been bigger, maybe it wouldn't be a problem at all. And now it's kind of worked itself out. But we want to try to go through those growing pains in the ordinance so we don't have to realize those types of growing pains in the field. I mean, it's not going to be perfect, but I think this is a strong step forward. If you guys have any questions, we'd be glad to field them.
The administration recommend introducing and adopting this ordinance. Steve Mamakis, from Office of Economic Development, is here. Should you have any questions, because he's dealing with a lot of this frustration that they're talking about, and we're dealing with an administration office, dealing with all the businesses that want to come into the town. So we hope that you introduce this ordinance and adopt it.
All right, I will ask now, Mr. Murphy would like to speak.
Yes, thank you. Let me be honest with you. First of all, I didn't read the whole thing, about halfway through and didn't understand any of it. I thought we did this a couple years ago or something. We made changes, but maybe we didn't. I'm new to the council, so that's why I didn't understand of it. Another reason that you coming here right off the bat, I wanted to hear what you said, but I like a lot of the things you said. It was a very good presentation. But I've heard you tonight and other times saying, this is the way I used to do it in other towns. Well, I've been in Old Bridge 60 years. I don't want to hear that. I feel that's an insult to Old Bridge. You have 300 years of the 9 council people, probably over that, who have been here. Here's my concern, and I may be wrong. I feel like it could put what's left of the little guy out of business. I don't want to see cookies and ice cream sold in the same store, because there was a place right here, one sold ice cream, one sold cookies. You're going to take some jobs away. And what happened? The ice cream place went, it couldn't handle it. And I'm just afraid we're going to miss something, and it's going to hurt because we didn't realize that could put something in there. Like, for example, I know this can't happen because it's New Jersey and you can't sell alcoholic beverages, but we would say, well, why can't, a food store say alcoholic beverages? You're taking somebody else's job away. I just want to make sure that there's nothing, and I'm sure you can't touch everything, but if you forget to put something in there that they can sell, now they can sell it, I feel it could be a problem, and I just think it's got to be, I can't look it over. That's your job, and like I said, I have a lot of respect for you, and you showed me that tonight, and my opinion of you has changed, but stop saying this is the way I used to do it in my other towns, because this is Old Bridge, and I don't want to say Old Bridge is wrong. Okay, thank you. That's all I have to say.
Okay, anyone else on this side? Mrs. Brown?
Hi, Vina. I had been speaking with you over the past couple of months, so I'm actually, I'm really excited to see this happening right now. To your point, John, you're my friend, but I do understand what you're saying. I think that you definitely, I know you don't mean what you're saying about you've worked in other towns and you've seen things be different. I know you don't mean in an offensive way. You're more so saying that the standard that we have here was actually really, and I don't think you mean antiquated, but just didn't fit with us saying we want to be user-friendly, basically, and business-friendly, but then we have so many restrictions. I think you described it one time before, similar to the ice cream cookie thing, but also I think you described to me that some of these developments were zoned, or some of these businesses were zoned where you could have a Chuck E. Cheese, maybe corporate office, but you can't actually have a Chuck E. Cheese. So that really restricts somebody who wants to open up a business from coming here, because they might just want to have a Chuck E. Cheese, and they don't want to have a Chuck E. Cheese corporate office. So that's right. So that's what she's talking about here, and that's really restricted a lot of businesses. And like you said, nobody wants to go before like the zoning board. They just want to be able to, get in there and have a business and hopefully be successful. So I'm super excited about this. I feel like you work so efficiently, all of you together. I really appreciate it. And for my ward, this is a big thing, and I'm always talking about it. So thank you so much for working on this. I know it's a lot of work. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else on my left?
Yes.
Mr. Merwin.
Number 11 in the prohibited use, transportation. Does that include school buses, or, because there's not school buses and enhanced use in the state now?
Councilman, with the prohibited use section, one of the things, not answer your question, I don't have the answer to your question as to whether or not it's an enhanced use. I would say, as a knee-jerk response, yes, it would be included in this prohibited use section. But one of the things that I would underscore for the prohibited use is we didn't create, and we're not proposing to add prohibited uses to the prohibited use section. What we did, with the exception of heavy industrial uses, which is number 2, the existing, or the 18 items enumerated here, with the exception of number 2, are existing prohibited uses in our matrix. And what we were doing is we took our matrix, which is a map, a chart, you can look at all the uses, and we found all the uses that were not allowed anywhere by omission, if not on purpose, by omission, and we wanted to put that in the prohibited use section because based on internal conversations with our legal department and in just regular ordinance writing fashion, it's not good if you have 2 different sections that address things not be consistent. So all we did was transpose that onto this prohibited use section.
But you'll find that out for me, right?
I will find it out. My knee-jerk response is that it would be included, but we'll look.
And the sidewalks, I may have missed it, you may have discussed it. We have that outside dining ordinance.
That's correct.
Do these specifications, so that we're not cramping anything in there, with these address that, so that if anything new would kind of have it?
Actually, I think the ordinance in furtherance with the buffers, the restriction in sidewalks, we're trying to encourage outdoor dining in the front, not along the roadway, but at a safe enough distance where it is visually appealing and it's interesting and it's eye-catching and it brings something.
That's, I just wanted to make sure that.
I think Mr. Merwin the outdoor dining, especially in the EDO1, we sketched it out to see if the sidewalks would be wide enough that businesses can really have outdoor dining, and it works with the proposed setbacks.
That's all. I was making sure that we all were on the same page with that.
Okay, Mr. Cahill?
Yes, thank you. Very good presentation. I appreciate it. It would have been helpful just going forward if we had the presentation in front of us. That would have been something we could have followed along. But it was very good. It's very well done. I am also excited at the changes you're coming up with. And I think this would be a work in progress too. You're not stopping here. You're making a very concerted effort to really make Old Bridge a much more business-friendly environment. And I think along the way, if there's tweaks that need to be made, we would make tweaks, right? So what this does is it broadcasts to potential businesses, hey, we're going to try and make it easier for you. And to your point about the zoning board, if less applications come before the zoning board, that in itself is easier. And then the volume of applications coming before the zoning board, if that decreases, it'll decrease the length of time it takes to actually get through the process. There's a ton of benefits here. So I think it's tremendous. I want to thank everybody for putting this great step forward, and I will definitely be supporting all four discussion ordinances going forward.
All right. Anyone else on my left? How about on my right? Mr. Pasquini?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for your hard work. Appreciate it. I love to hear less restriction. I love that. I know, Damien, you feel the opposite, but...
No, not at all.
But anyway, can you expound a little bit on the Route 34 corridor? Because, those businesses are there because they're thriving. They're successful, right? And it happens to be a successful corridor for that type of business. So tell me exactly what the restriction on that EDO1 zone there?
So, Mr. Pescari, often at the planning board, I have heard everyone discuss that Route 34 is just, it's not inviting anymore. It's just auto-related uses. The cars are parked literally on the street right of way. They're jutting out, and the properties are not maintained. We are not trying to take away from the businesses. So whatever exists is going to exist. What we are trying to do is there's a condition which says that no new auto-related use would be located within 2,000 feet of another use. And actually on the screen, I have a map for you. The red dotted line is the 2,000 feet buffer. So if you notice, 1,000 feet buffer, sorry. So the red line is the buffer, and all the color-coded properties are the properties that have auto-related uses. So now what we are trying to do, if you notice, is that the entire corridor except for the eastern portion is covered. So no new auto-related uses can go in there. Whatever exists is going to exist. We are just requiring them to have screening, fence, landscaping, that's it. So we're not trying to curtail them from developing or growing.
So this is for new construction only?
Yes.
These folks are already grandfathered in, and they're not going to be harassed?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, one of the things we did with establishing the design standards is to look at the existing development. One of the things that Vina and Lauren were talking about is certain sketches and practical exercises were done with existing configurations, and to the best of our ability, we tried to mirror some of the development that exists so that we wouldn't have incongruous development going forward. So while not all of those properties may comply with the new standard, insofar as a buffer or this, those are protected by their original approvals, and we don't want them to go away. In fact, we've probably made it a little bit less competitive for them so that they can thrive a little bit more by putting in these buffers.
Right. Thank you very much.
Okay, anyone else on my right? Dr. Greenberg.
Yes, thank you for the presentation and the explanations that you did and the efforts that you put into it. I always have, my concerns are setbacks. So when you said on 34, for example, that the setback for a business is 25 feet from the road, my concern, and I understand that you prefer parking in the back. Now, visibility is very important to a business, and I always feel that we try to create an area for pedestrian walkways, and that's great. But I drive around town, I don't really see people walking that much, even in the town center that we have across the street, that people park, go in, whether it's the restaurant, whatever they need in that area, and leave. And so it's very difficult to create a downtown area, central location where people go. As far as compared, when I look at the 25-foot setback, another thing that concerns me is like, as I said, the balance between visibility and safety. So now you have a building that's 25 feet from the road, landscaping, signage, something attractive on the building that will draw you to it. But I always wonder on 34, if they're ever going to expand and widen that road, what does that do to that business then? And, you know, I always try to look 10, 15 years down the road, how is something going to look then after we've decided to build it? So with building, I'll just use an example. With Vision Stream, I try to frequent the businesses over there. The bakery's excellent, 5 loaves. If everyone hasn't gone, I recommend going. But I just worry because it's right on the road. A lot of people, when you're driving, you don't see the sign in the building, and then even an entranceway to get in to know that you can park in the back and go. So that, you know, is very, you know, like a little difficult for me. So those are the things that I always keep in mind, because when you have businesses coming here, I want them to be successful. I want to be business friendly. I want to help them in any way to go through the process, you know, through code, with the Economic Development organization. They're working very hard to get new business here, but I want them to be successful when they come and invest all that time. So that's one of the things that I worry about. And as far as with unique and interesting, how you said on 34, where the shops are, even if they're set in the back, there's a lot of developments that shopping areas they go to. One of the ones that was met with was, the Shops of Oldbridge. Now, it's set back, and sometimes it's nice, that wooded area, once people know, advertisement, word of mouth is the best. But you consider a place like Shrewsbury, the Grove. It's nice, it's attractive, there's trees there, there's tree-lined parking, there's very different types of businesses there, walking. So it really, you know, does make a difference on appeal, roadside appeal, but when it's on 34, I just worry when you're driving and it's busy and you see it. Yes, it's nice to see it, but you have to be convenient to drive in and then utilize the business. And I just think 25 feet, I worry if we ever widen that road, that's the thing that came to mind. What is the, you know, what is the plan for that? And I think it will happen someday, but, you know, I want to be inviting to business, but I also, you know, want to be sensible when, you know, we do that also, for them to be successful.
Just to give a quick response, the very fact that the town center district has a 0 feet setback and the EDO zone has a higher, my first reflex when I was looking at redesigning, recreating EDO was to have like 5 feet setback or 10 feet setback. But then I do acknowledge that it's Route 35, it's a busy corridor, but at some point we have to create these uses where people can walk through. There are residences that abut the EDO 1 zone, especially around Route 34. We want them to be able to walk to a store. And when it comes to identifying, and that's something which I have been speaking about in every planning board meeting, Mr. Piscati has heard me in the past, I'm very big on signage part. So how those signs are designed and where they are placed are very critical. So I don't think identifying these businesses would be an issue once our signage ordinance is in place. But these 30 feet setbacks would actually allow a drive-through, not a drive-through, but a driveway in the front. They could have a landscape, a small landscape buffer, a sidewalk, and a one-way drive-through. So it actually offers the designer the flexibility. What happens with higher or bigger front yard setbacks is your natural reflex is to put parking in the front. And you really want to avoid that because the businesses are more attractive than the parking lots, right? So you want to feel like walking into the store. You want those stores to be very attractive. So 30 feet or 25 feet to me is not a significant amount.
Anyone else? Ms. Walker?
I have to agree with you about the parking in the front. Like, I'll use the marketplace as an example. With the shops in the back there, a lot of them don't stay in business, and I think it's because a few things. The sign ordinance, I believe, is prohibitive. People don't know what's back there, and people don't really go back there, like you said. So a lot of businesses don't stay in business over there. So I'm thinking if they are closer and more visible, my only worry is, like Dr. Greenberg mentioned, was vision streams. I think maybe that just might be the location of it, though. They are on the road, and I don't know if people realize that there is parking in the back because they're driving very fast and they're not paying attention. But I think Route 34 will be different because of the location of that. But I agree with you as far as having the businesses near the road. I think it'd be more attractive, and we do have to address the side ordinance for sure, because I think it hurts our businesses because they can't get the people in because of the limitations.
Yes, anyone else? All right, I'll just finish up the comments also by thanking the three of you for coming and taking the time to prepare a presentation like this. This was a lot of work. It really was, and it's very appreciated because we were all on the same page. We want Old Bridge to succeed, and we want the businesses to succeed as well. And I think this was a good step forward in trying to redefine ourselves. We've been rebranding ourselves. I think there's a lot that can be said for, making these initiatives. So thank you again for all your time and your expertise.
I want to ask a question.
Yes.
I just want to ask a question, follow up with Dr. Greenberg's question. Your buffer zone, is that from the roadway as it exists, or is that from the right-of-way? Okay.
Okay, thanks.
All right, there's clarification. And I just want to end, Mr. Mamakis said he'd like to speak.
I thank you, Council President. They worked very hard on this, and I commend them. It provides us a lot more flexibility to attract businesses. But from the standpoint, I could put a little bit more context to it for Mr. Murphy and others. The challenges that we face, you may get into cookies and ice cream, but when somebody wants to open up a small store, and she mentioned that at one point, where they want to sell products for dog-related products, and they can't groom dogs in the same place, it creates a challenge. But what we're looking at is the changing of the ordinance, because microbreweries were not in our ordinances. The world has changed, well, not that fast, but it's changed. Hatchet throwing. So we have a lot of different businesses that are coming in town. And as of today, if you look at NJ.com, our planning board meeting, when we spoke about all these changes, we just got referenced in NJ.com, and it'll probably be in the Star Ledger, that we, Old Bridge, are the exception to the rule. We're changing the rules. And that's where it's coming from. So with their help and all of us working together, we're able to attract more business. So again, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mamakis. All right, now.
Are we going to move it forward tonight?
Well, that's what I would like to see, if we could move this forward, okay?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Yeah, this is for first reading.
No. Let's, can we do this, just because it is such an involved ordinance, to just make it cleaner? The first vote would be to remove it from the discussion and put it on for tonight for first reading. And then, if that passes, then you would have your first reading.
Yep.
We'd do a motion for first reading.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, very good. So do we have the motion?
I'll move it.
Okay, moved by Mrs. Walker.
Will we move them all as a package or one at a time?
I think if you move them as a package, it's much cleaner.
Okay, Mr. Cahill? Okay. And then second, all right. Yep.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Cahill?
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg?
Yes.
Mr. Merwin?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Biscotti?
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
President Soha?
Yes.
9 yes.
Now we'll vote to move it up to first reading, correct?
Move it.
Second.
Wait, no, go ahead.
No,
Nope.
we did.
You moved it to,
First.
from
Take it.
discussion to
Right.
first, now you're going to vote on first reading.
Right, that's what I said, first reading. Okay, all right. Yes.
Yes.
Move it.
Second.
Dr. Greenberg, Bell, aye.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Cahill?
Yes.
And Dr. Greenberg? Yes. Mr. Merwin?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Biscotti?
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
President Soha?
Yes.
9 yes.
Thank you all very much for all the time and effort. Have a good evening. Okay. Next, we will have public comments on any subject matter. Please come forward. Good evening.
Good evening. Terry Barron from Cheesequake Village. I just want to make a mention of Kyle, very cooperative. Anytime I call, anytime I email, I get a response right away. Engineering department, Nicole, I think Kay is the other girl that's there, can call them at any time. They're always responsive. It's refreshing. I appreciate it wholeheartedly for my development, but I would also say I wish some of the other departments were as cooperative. But thank you anyway.
Okay.
Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you very much. Anyone else for public comment? Good evening.
Hi, Sal Giordano. And back to the state government doing a bad job, especially with our town. Governor Murphy just signed the bill for $100 million in taxpayers' dollars to go to the horse racing industry, and that was privatized in 2011. So basically, we're cutting funds to our education and the pension system, and we're putting it into the hands of basically the corporations. So as a result, specifically Cheesequake Elementary School is going to be shut down because of this. And I was wondering if there was anything like Old Bridge as a township can do, or if anyone has discussed this with Senator Thompson and how we respond to this and any actions we can take if possible.
Mm-hmm. Well, I do know, I believe there were meetings where the senator was there, available, spoke. Also, the assemblyman, Mr. Dancer, was there at the, and they had come up with some ideas that they were banding together their whole region because they happened to have other districts. We were an anomaly in Middlesex, but in the district that's theirs, there was quite a few of, this kind of problem. So they were thinking banding together and making resolutions and trying to get some kind of help for you. But I don't know how successful they've been as of yet, but hopefully, there'll be some help there. It's a difficult situation, and you should attend the board meetings, Board of Ed meetings, and this way you're, brought up to speed, have your elected officials from the school board also bring you up to speed on what's going on in terms of that.
I know the mayor met with some people from the state, and he's been on the phone with them, trying to see if they could work out something to get some of the funding back.
We are trying. Anyone else from the public wish to be heard? Come forward, please. Oh, have a seat, please, and you can turn your microphone on, please. Thank you.
Now I learn how to open it. I want to give the attention to everybody. How you feel when they put me in the hospital and now they get the results, the New Amsterdam Village, and everybody, they afraid of me. The workers which they was friend of mine. The people which I teach them how to work in, difficult which they had the construction. Today, those guys, they don't want to talk to me. They think I'm crazy. Do you believe that? Yes, dear. Because one the guy was on a just... oh, no. Oh, thank you very much, Miss Anna. The thing is, they are very tight. The manager, the accountant, the supervisor, and the workers where they are very tight that way. They get order from them, from the office, to not talk to me. If I ask them something, they refuse it. Yesterday, am I right? Yesterday or before yesterday, no, it was around Friday, a guy was on the first time I saw him, his work on New Amsterdam Village. Instead, I said, it is the staircase. Instead, as he goes 2 steps, when he saw me outside of my house, he turns back, he goes from the grass, goes away. What that means? He was afraid for me. Believe me, and something else. I was with a friend of mine on the parking on the birthday boy. I saw something incredible, guys. The helicopter was stopped over my head. They did something, they put chip on my arm, the hospital? That's I believe today. I'm going to find out with FDI. Help me, please, to find a lawyer which is not going to trade me. He's not going to double cross me. I want somebody, and I'm going to prove the truth. Also, it's a free. I'm going to work with the township and with the state to save those buildings. I don't want a penny. I want to save people's life. They don't know anything about the construction. Whatever they used to do, they say, that's it. We're going to do my way. It's not your way. They don't know anything about construction. As I told you last time, when they change the floors, there are that much open. You see that the space between those tables, they don't touch on the wall. And also, when you put the plywoods, you know that they put actually putty. It's a liquid putty between the 2 joints, the plywood. And that's the way it's a solid. Nothing passes through that space. They don't do that. There are so many, when they put the plywood, there is at least 1/4, it's open. The paper which they put, this is the paper, it's 2 or 3 months, because there is steam on the thing, it's going to be destroyed. And that the smell comes from the apartment. They don't know anything about the construction. Please help me to go to the Tredon, to the engineer. I'm going to show them how to finish those problems, to help the people. No matter how much they're going to do, still the moisture, the mold is going to be in the apartment. Still the people, they're going to get sick, and nobody knows how they die or whatever the disease can be bring to them. Please, give me that opportunity. Also, give me the opportunity, as I told them about the apartment, it says, go do it yourself. Give me some paper, which I can do that, because as they extend the service, they put the galvanized extra 16 inches. I want to remove it because it's so difficult for me to go inside today. Before I was young, it was easy for me. But now I want to remove it, to put it back again with no damages. I want to get material to get them to the Washington, D.C. I mean this one. It's wet downstairs. When I asked them there is a water, the guy which was from the health department and the supervisor says, it was water that much. 20 gallons water, you show them to the inspector that much? Please help me, guys. Please help me. Not do it for me, for the people who live in the New Amsterdam Village.
Okay.
Help me, please.
Thank you.
Do it that free. I don't want a penny from nobody.
Much for all your comments. Anyone else from the public wish to be heard this evening? Seeing no hands, I will close the public portion. Next will be discussion D1, Amboy, Disbrow, Lambertston intersection. Mr. Merwin.
Yes, again, we had another accident. We know how dangerous it is. But Nicole's not here, so in deference to that, Hamacho thinks we should hold off. And
As discussed, I would recommend that we'll have a continued discussion through the next 2 weeks, but then we'll have a full discussion. She'll be here to talk about it.
That's fine.
Okay, that's, okay, you're okay with that, correct?
Yeah, as long as everybody else is, I am.
Oh, that's what I'm going to ask everybody, okay? I'm fine with that. All right, very good. Next, council member comments.
Madam Chairperson. Go.
Brown? Yep.
That's fine.
Okay.
I just want to make a quick correction for a statement that I made during the February 11th meeting. During that time, I meant what I was saying, but I think it kind of came out a different way. So I want to correct the fact that the state actually provides about $46 million to the Old Bridge Township schools, but in totality, the budget is about over $150 million. So I just want to make a correction so no one thought that the state was giving us $150 million. So I heard a couple of people believe that, and I just wanted to make clear what the difference is. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Merwin?
Yes, I'm not sure, in light of today's tragic things, perhaps we can get the police department to reinstitute the aggressive driving campaign on 9, 18, 34, and 35. It's surely been missing, and if we put them out there, it was a success when we had it, so hopefully we can reinstitute it.
Okay, thank you.
I got one more. There is a business out on Englishtown Road at the old P&L complex. It's a chop shop. It may be a legalized chop shop, but it's a chop shop. They chop the cars up and they send everything overseas. What kind of permits are they working on? I mean, is it a junkyard? Is it a secondhand parts store? Is it a chop shop? What is it? And now I know in Marlboro and stuff, when you have those type of things, they have to provide a list of all VIN numbers of all vehicles that are going through their system. And I don't know what we're doing, but I don't even know if they're operating with the proper permits at this time. I'm hearing complaints from the public that they're not, but if we could check into that.
Wish Mr. Gill was still here.
Yeah, no, no. That's Macho will handle it. Hey, man, Macho will handle it. All right, that's it.
We'll follow up on that.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Anyone else from this side? Mr. Murphy?
Yeah, I just want to make one thing. I don't, when I said my girlfriend had they told us they had brain damage at Perth Amboy, we went over to Robert Wood, she had no brain damage at all. There's nothing. So that's all fine. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Very good. Anyone else down this way? No? Okay, how about on my right? Anyone? Dr. Greenberg?
A little bit more than 3 weeks, it'll be spring. Everyone hang in there.
I just want to make one comment. Did Debbie, did anybody else? Okay, just one comment. Mr. Shaw, since we seem to be having such a problem with JCP&L, in terms of these lights and things, would you be able to have someone come from there representing them so that we can get some of these questions answered? It just seems that for whatever reason, there's a disconnect here, and I'd just like to have them come, and let's see if we can get this all straightened out.
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you very much.
Great idea.
Okay, I'd like to take a motion for adjournment, please.
Move it.
Move it, second.
Okay, moved by Dr. Greenberg Belli, second by Mr. Rozzoli.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Cahill?
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg? Mr. Merwin?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Fischetti? Yes. Mr. Rozzoli?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker? Yes. President Soha?
Yes, good evening.
9 yes.